to order. Does anyone have a conflict of interest with anything on the agenda tonight?
No.
Nope.
Okay. We have approval of minutes. And let's see, we have the minutes.
Recess.
We have three. Okay, wait a minute, I think I have two here.
You have October
Two, we have the 10th, the 7th.
7th, 10th, and 15th.
Okay, I don't have the 15th with me, I'm sorry, Margie. If you
That was
have
the
those.
very brief health insurance workshop that we had.
Oh, yeah, maybe I have those. Oh, yeah, sorry, I had them stuck together. Okay, could I have a motion to approve the minutes of October 7th?
So moved. Second.
Okay, Carl and then Mitch. Do we have any corrections? I have a few, but maybe I'll go over mine first. On page 3, I think it's page 3, which it has to do with the Sheriff's Department currently charges the town an hourly rate of $25.50. That actually, the hourly rate is $17.67 an hour, which reflects a discount from the $25.50 regular fee due to a COPS grant. And down on the third paragraph down on that page, the last sentence, the cost of service, this reads $5.10 a week. I think that would have been based on if you had taken the $25.50, but I think probably and because we don't pay that much, probably the easiest way of handling it might be to say the current budget is $19,732 yearly budget for it, because that actually reflects a $17.67 or thereabouts for 20 hours.
But I think we also were trying to talk about going forward. So if you were looking at 20 hours a week at the non-subsidized rate of the COPS grant, 20 hours a week times 52 times $25.50.
Right, that's fine, but I think we need to indicate that that's what it would be going
Yeah.
forward then, maybe, as opposed to that's what the cost is now.
And that's how you get the 26,500.
Yeah, right, right. Do you get what we're getting at, Sean? Okay. And again, down on the next paragraph down, Chad Schmidt said he would still honor the current rate his Sheriff's Department charges the town. I might just add, without the COPS subsidy. And then on the next paragraph down, you have Karen Mellinger endorsed Chad Schmidt. I don't think I endorsed him for anything. I don't think he's running, but...
I spoke up and said, I appreciate the work you're doing, maybe just...
Right, I think as, probably the sentence before that might cover it, that the select board was pleased with the service being provided.
Okay.
And I think that's all that I had.
Oh, I see, Karen Milton.
Does anyone else have any corrections? All right, I'll call all those in favor.
Aye.
Aye. All right, that's 5-0-0, no abstentions. Then we have the minutes of October 10th, which was the special meeting on the health insurance. Do you have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Any corrections? Additions? You all set? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions?
Me.
Or okay,
wasn't there.
one absent, okay. So that's 4, I always forget how you do this, 401? Okay. Okay, then we have the minutes of October 15th. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Any corrections? All right. Anyone? Carl? Additions?
No.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
It'll only be 3.
Right. I was absent, so.
Me too.
Okay, so we're abstaining. So that would be 302. Okay. So, moving along to the warrants. Okay, we have check warrant. This is a Veemers. PR08. This is a retirement warrant in the amount of $131.39.
Yeah, Beamer's DC.
Veemers DC.
Motion
Yep.
to approve.
Yep. PR08. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Mitch?
Second.
And Ken seconds. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. And then we have, what is this? Wait a second.
Payroll.
This is payroll 08 in the amount of $16,169.23. Motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Then we have check warrant number 13. This is in the amount of $12,691 to William Barney Construction. This is for gravel for capital improvement work.
Yep.
On Trumbull Hill, Cross Hill, West Mountain, Shaftsbury Hollow. They were hauling a lot of gravel. And
Was any of that on Blueberry Hill?
I don't see Blueberry Hill, but certainly in that area. Trumbull, Cross, West Mountain, Shaftsbury Hollow. Although there's a couple of dates listed that don't indicate roads, August 12th and the 14th, large stone and crushed gravel. And also on Madison Road.
I think the Blueberry Hill was already invoiced for, Ken.
Was it?
I think so. But we can check. That was right after that one, or during that one rainstorm.
The rain. Yep.
Karen, could you
Yep.
pass the other ones?
Yes, I'm
So we
sorry.
can start to see.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. And that's, wait a second, so there's that one.
Well, I signed it already.
And then, oh, I didn't even sign it, sorry. Then we have check warrant number 14, and that is $197.39.
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Mitch and Ken. Here we have more gravel to William Barney, $8,072. Blue Cross, $7,128. County tax, Bennington County tax, $11,404. Another Shaftsbury ID tax, the Independent District, $2,018.52. William Daly, the paving on Twitchell Hill was $1,239. Then we had a number of chlorides that, around 6,000, no, chloride actually around 5,500. Some more paving on Twitchell Hill, 634. Mountaineer assessors, 2,125. That's for the listers. Annual support agreement with the New England Municipal Resource.
That's the accounting tax dog. A
Oh,
lot of our
yeah,
software
yeah.
is licensed through,
NIMRIC.
we call it NIMRIC.
NIMRIC. That's $1,217.
Do you have the yardage on that gravel, or is it just a bill on it?
Well, it would be in,
Barney's yardage.
it would be in here, I'm sure.
Yeah, you have to
want me
look at
that up?
Is that for?
What are we paying for that a yard?
Well, we'll find out.
We are, let's see, we've got $8.
$8?
Yep. Yep. And a portion of this is going to capital improvements, and a portion is going to the regular gravel budget. 5,100 is going to capital improvements, and almost 3,000 to the gravel budget. And this is West Mountain, Shaftsbury Hollow, Myers. So this is different from the other,
They're using two different types, depending on where they're working in town.
Okay. All right, so this is related to work that was done in early October, early this month, and the other work was done in August and September. Does that help, Ken?
Yep.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, sorry, yep, yep.
That was just a simple invoice.
Okay, okay.
These
Did I
need
get
to be
the others?
signed by the board, and then Karen, these are your two to sign.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't have this whole system down. Okay, all right. Announcements. Anyone have any announcements? Jim?
No.
Mitch?
No announcements.
Ken?
No.
Carl?
No.
Okay. Then we have Joe. Joe Vatican. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, we have public comments are on the agenda right after Joe's presentation. Is that okay? Okay. Well, I was asking for announcements. Usually we do the board announcements if they have anything they need to announce to the community. That's okay. Joe, you want to come up? So Joe Vatican, our fire chief, is here there's, excuse me, a request for, I think is this the turnout gear? That, my recollection is that this is in the budget, but because we're over $3,000, Margie cannot authorize, so Joe is here to just go over some of the quotes that he got for the turnout gear, and make a request, I think, in terms of a vendor, particular vendor. Okay? So I think, does the board, did everyone receive the information? And
Yes.
okay, Joe, so it looks like we're looking at Reynolds, and then others are these from the internet? Okay. Okay. All right, okay, so what do you want to tell us?
I tried to compare apples to apples. There's a lot of different fire gear manufacturers out there, so I tried to get one brand as close to three different prices or three different vendors. My recommendation, after looking at all three, is Reynolds & Son for availability. They're sort of local.
Can I interrupt, Joe? I don't think people that are listening have any idea what it is that you're proposing we buy.
Okay, all right. A complete set of gear for two firefighters, which includes a helmet, coat, pants, boots, gloves, I'm forgetting something, and a hood. A Nomex fireproof hood.
Yep.
Not the tanks.
Not the air packs, no. Just turnout gear, what we call turnout gear. The two sets that we are replacing, the firefighters are, for lack of a better term, veteran firefighters who's worn their gear out. They've had it for quite a long time. So what I try to do is outfit the entire firefighter instead of piecemealing it, and having somebody with a good coat and pants that are ripped or vice versa. Then that way, we're not mixing and matching. And the thing with gear is different manufacturers have different way of making their gear. Some manufacturers make their pants to be bib overalls so their coats can be shorter. Others make their pants waist high with longer coats. So again, it's easier to just outfit one person than to try to get everybody a coat or everybody a pair of pants. So about 6 or 7 years ago, and Karen could probably remember this, we received a grant and we outfitted most of the department with all new gear, the same gear that I just mentioned, helmet right down to boots. Some of that gear is starting to wear, especially the interior firefighters. So over the last couple of years, we've had to replace some of this gear. Firefighting is very rough on gear. Stuff rips, stuff gets burned, and we have to replace it. Plus, it's just starting to get a little bit older. So my intention is to do a couple every year instead of spending $40,000 trying to do everybody in 1 year. So the turnover is slower, but we're going to try to keep ahead of it. Having just pay big bucks 1 year. So this year, I selected 2 other firefighters whose gear is starting to wear out, and this is where the prices came in for that gear. And if you saw that Reynolds & Sons was the higher of the 3 prices, 2 of the reasons why I liked Reynolds & Sons is they came in and actually measured guys, so that if the gear doesn't fit, if it comes in and doesn't fit, they're responsible for it. They have to take the gear back and make it right. Whereas if we bought it online, because we gave them the measurements, they made the gear to fit those measurements. If it wasn't correct, it's still our problem. It's not the store that sent it to us. So, and again, the dealer is local, Brattleboro, which is very local for us.
The gear that you see online, Joe, is that, have you ever bought any of it? I mean, is the quality as good, or?
Yes, and that's another thing. The quality, we know what the quality is, we know what we're getting. We've used it for several years now.
Right.
And you're getting what you paid for.
Right, but I'm saying, have you ever used any of that stuff from the internet?
No, not on the internet.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, no. Just the Reynolds & Sons, we bought 2 sets of gear last year, if I'm correct. I know what I'm getting. On the internet, it's the same brand,
Right.
you know, but to physically see it, no, I haven't, other than a picture on a computer.
Yeah, well, that's,
Right. And that could be
that stuff, that's
Right.
not the same thing.
Right. So, again, my biggest thing is that I tried to get Fire Deck's gear, and we're going to have, when we get it, we know we're going to get
Yeah.
what we want. And if it's not, then we can go back to somebody and say, listen, this isn't right.
How long does a set of gear last?
Depends on the person.
Like the stuff that you're retiring, how old is it?
Well, actually, one of the sets of gear is probably about 10 years old. He wasn't someone that was here back when we bought that gear before, so he kind of had an old set of gear. So we're replacing his gear because it's just really old and it's worn out. The other gear we're replacing is someone's an interior firefighter. He's just, you know, messed it up. It's been... Soot does a lot of bad things. We get crawling around inside a burning building. The carcinogens that you're walking around in, you're kneeling in, you're getting on your coat, really wreaks havoc with gear. And this person is one of my interior guys.
So
Joe,
10,
excuse me.
10 years is long, mostly.
10 years is a long time for a set of gear.
Normally less than
But,
that?
Yeah,
Sounds
I would
like
say
plus
between
or
5
minus.
to 7 years is
5 to
probably
7.
a good deal. But then again, if you're not someone that goes inside, say you run just the pump panel on the truck, you certainly
Right.
don't need new gear. Your gear could last 15, 20 years.
One other one, how many incidents do you respond to a year or a month or
About 100,
really?
give or take. I mean, some years are up and some years are down. Right now, we're down.
Thank you.
Joe, there's about $1,000 difference between the vendor you're proposing and the lowest vendor, which is an internet firm. 5,300 versus 6,300, I think it was.
Yeah.
With that kind of difference, like 20% increase, and we've never bought anything on the internet, my concern is that there is the presumption, without anything other than subjective presumption, that the internet materials are potentially more problematic, potentially more administration if something doesn't work, than what we're paying for. And my thought is, for that kind of a price, an additional $1,000, and I'm assuming, since we haven't bought anything before, the next time you come in, you're going to present comparable kinds of quotations with a comparable kind of argument. That, you know, if we buy it from Vermont, they come in, they measure, if there's a problem, that's their responsibility. I doubt that argument's going to change. So I'm concerned, not for this purchase so much, but that at that increased price, is it not worth it to the town to try something from the internet, to actually see if the quality, if the dimensions, if the overall product is comparable to what we would otherwise be paying $1,000 more for?
Or on the other hand, we'd be paying $4,000 for gear that doesn't fit.
But that's hypothetical, we don't know. That's the worst-case scenario, is that not correct?
Someone who's bought gear before that doesn't fit
Say
someone.
again, sorry.
Someone who has bought gear before for people and not having it fit and trying to find someone that can alter it. Because you just can't take it down to the bank and say,
I
okay,
understand, but didn't you say we've never bought anything on the internet before? Well, it
it wasn't on the internet, it was from another dealer.
was from another dealer?
Right.
Okay.
So, once bitten, twice shy, you know, so I don't want to take that responsibility of measuring somebody because that's not something that I'm comfortable with. And then going online and saying, and I don't know if what I see in the picture will be what I get in the box when it arrives at my firehouse. I'm taking a chance there too.
Well, every time you step across the street, you take a chance. So my point is simply, when it is a firm cost increase to the town of $1,000 this year, and next year, presumably the same thing, because I'm assuming the argument will be the same. I don't know what I'm going to get. And each year we're going to go on, yet we're not really going to know whether or not that presumption of inadequacy is justified or not. If you don't want to take dimension, I understand, you're not a tailor, but we can get a tailor probably for $50 to come in and measure the two guys.
Like I said, these guys were measured before and the gear didn't fit. You had to go to Cambridge to make it fit at our cost. So I'm not comfortable with buying on the internet. I wouldn't buy a lot of things on the internet, sight unseen.
Are you aware of any other towns that have bought comparable equipment on the internet? Either without
No,
problems?
they usually go by way of having it measured and having it bought through a dealer. And, you know, these guys were actually able to try on the gear to make sure that it fit. You know, they have samples and, you know, even measuring, you know, can be a little bit subjective. So they had actual gear there.
Then let me ask you this question, Joe. Why did you come in with two proposals from the internet that you knew you weren't going to accept no matter what the price was?
because I was comparing Fire Deck's gear with Fire Deck's gear.
There are no other comparable companies that could come in and measure our guys that you could then compare the Brattleboro company to?
Not locally, that I know of.
Can I ask, what do the other fire companies around here do? I mean, is there, because I mean, to me, it makes sense. It's interesting, I had a conversation with my son-in-law, who was in the military, and when I got this stuff over the internet last week in Chicago, and I said, why would there be such a difference, and why would you spend so much more money? And he said, because in this kind of work, it is all about fit. And it was very interesting to me to hear you say this without having a conversation with you, that the fit is pretty critical when they're doing this kind of work. But I'm wondering, we have a lot of fire companies in the area, and I'm sure that they're all having to outfit their guys in different capacities through the year. Who do the Bennington folks use? Are they using this Reynolds?
Yes.
Is there a way of getting better pricing if we all work together? I mean, we're only ordering 2,
Well-
but if Bennington at the beginning of a fiscal year is ordering 10, and, is there a way that, we can get some kind of advantage in pricing because of the quantities perhaps that would be ordered, or?
Well, first of all, the other departments in the area, I don't know what their specs are, because the specs of the gear can be different. The inside lining can be different, colors are different, some wear black, some wear natural, some wear, just, so there's a lot of variations, and whether I would call up the chief of a neighboring town and say, listen, when you order gear, can we order a couple for Shaftsbury, because maybe we can get a discount. I don't know. I'm doing it because our fiscal year runs from July to July.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these departments can buy gear whenever they want, and they don't have to bring it before anybody. They have a set amount that they can spend every year. North Bennington, they have a set amount that they spend every year on gear, and it's up to the chief's discretion.
Yeah, I just wonder if I would imagine everybody would be of a like mind in terms of saving money if you can get the same quality but for less. And sometimes there are ways to do that if, in terms of economies of scale, if you're, even, I don't know if you can even have agreements to work with a certain provider of these kinds of services if they give a special pricing.
I'm also a little concerned, even though I want our guys to have the best, I want the stuff to fit, I don't care if it costs another $1,000 if that's the right way, so don't misunderstand what I've been saying, but I'm a little concerned here that the way this procurement would go, it's almost a sole source procurement.
That's what I was suggesting
Because we
to
don't really
Karen.
have 3 viable bids. We have 1 bid that we want, and we have 2 others that were rejected before they're even looked up.
I don't think, Joe, do you know what that means?
I understand that.
Yeah.
I could have gotten 3 different companies, but then you have 3 different sets of gear, which, as I said, they're not interchangeable in a lot of ways.
I think as a town, all right, if we have a good reason why we want to buy a specific set of gear from a specific company, that's the most important thing, okay? If it's because it can be interchangeable, if because the quality is at a level that exceeds other things for the price, et cetera. Otherwise, most governmental agencies say that if you can provide me an equal product, even though it may look a little different, may come from a different place, but if it's an equal product and it's less money, we'll take the equal product. As opposed to a sole source, which says, I only want this from this company because it's good. as opposed to, as you just said, maybe it's interchangeable equipment, maybe it has a longer warranty, maybe something like that. That's my concern. By doing what we're doing right now, we may be shutting out other comparable vendors that have equal products at a lesser cost, or maybe even the same product at a lesser cost. And if we want to go with this company, that's fine, but I'd like to know that, what are the reasons why we want to go with basically a sole source procurement?
Joe, is this stuff custom tailored?
Yes.
Okay. So there's no returning it if it's the wrong size?
If it's measured by Reynolds and Son and it doesn't fit, we can return it, because they did the measuring. If I were to go with either two of the other companies, no, once we buy it, it's ours, and whether it fits or not, it doesn't matter.
How critical is it for these, and I'm assuming this, that stuff has got to be pretty well matched, so it all, each piece goes together to get your protection.
Right.
So,
You wouldn't want a coat that was 2 or 3 inches above your pants.
right, exactly. And I mean, because there goes your your protection.
But does the coat on firefighter A have to be able to fit firefighter B? In terms of, one, you said sometime it's long, some are short.
I'm talking about gear
Yeah.
in different companies. That's why I try to stay with one company. I don't try to, because then we could run into a whole bunch of different problems. If I grab 2 or 3 different companies and try to buy gear, then if this firefighter were to get out, but say he's, longer in the body, but shorter in the legs, his gear's not going to fit somebody else, or be interchangeable with another company's gear. So you'll see, any fire department around, they don't mix and match. Once they've established a set of gear, that's what they stay with.
I see.
Just like when we bought the gear years ago, we bought, the pants and the coat were from one company. We didn't outsource the pants to one company and the coat to another company, because they just don't mix
No,
and
I
match.
wasn't suggesting we would do that. That wasn't my point. My point was rather that if firefighter A has a, doublet that goes up to here, is that what everybody has to have, or?
Yes.
The brand of gear that you've quoted here is the kind you like?
Yes. We've used it, last year we bought 2 sets. We've used it on a couple different occasions, and it works.
And Joe, was this the brand that you used when you got the grant and did the whole?
When we did the grant, it was a different brand.
And so you still have guys in that
Yes,
brand?
yes. And that's why we changed the whole firefighter. We don't change just the coat or the pants as they wear out.
This is the same style as those, I presume.
Same style.
But different brand, and so the guys definitely know they don't like that. So you have, I don't know how many guys we outfitted 6 or 7 years ago with the grant.
It was about 20,
Oh, yeah, we did a lot of them.
about 20.
So that sounds like the majority of the department right now has the brand that we bought with the grant that we don't like, right?
Well, no, I don't want to say we don't like. We're just wearing it out. I mean,
Is it Firedex?
No, it was not.
Okay. So with
We're
last,
just, as I said, we're just wearing it out, and,
Sure.
so it's, some guys wear it out faster than others.
so was last year that was the first time we did the Reynolds?
Yeah,
I'll have to go back and look
no,
at
I
the
think
invoice.
it was the second time. last year.
Second time.
Yes, this will be the third time.
They're the only ones in the state that handle that stuff?
I don't know. They're the only ones that, this is their area. So whether somebody up north does or not, I don't know.
So how many sets of this gear do we have to buy? How many firemen do you have to outfit with this gear?
2.
No, I mean total in the department.
Oh, like I said, it's as we need it, so
Yeah, I'm just looking, I don't know the number of firemen that we have.
we
to
have about 32 firefighters.
32?
Yeah, and next year, I'll pick 1 or 2 more, if need be, to replace their gear. Maybe it'll be 3, who knows, maybe it'll be 1. I can't say for right now. I'm picking the worst 2 as we see them today. But somebody could go into a fire tomorrow and totally burn up their gear, and you have to replace it. So that's just the nature of the business.
And is this gear worn out enough that it's basically done, or do you keep it
Yeah,
back for?
No. We will get rid of it, because there's a liability issue.
Yeah.
If a gear is worn out enough, and say something happens to that firefighter, the gear didn't protect them, then we'd have to be responsible for that. The insurance company would hold us to it.
Yeah, I was wondering, Joe, if we have NFPA codes or however you code or rate the equipment.
We
and
do.
if
NFPA
everybody
says the gear
says
should
it
be-
has to be,
Yeah, it has to be
You know.
5 years, but that's not practical, not
Yeah.
for the size of our department.
Yeah.
In our town.
No.
That's-
Yeah.
That's, but, I mean, if you
Yeah.
were a city fire department, that would be reasonable.
Joe, I certainly hear what Carl is saying, and I'm just wondering if it would make sense to determine what other companies are in the state of Vermont besides this Reynolds, that, you know, whether it's now or for future reference, that we can put our specs out to for a bid. You know, because I think sometimes when you're bidding, you're going to get pricing. They know you're bidding it out. And it may be that the pricing can come in at a more attractive rate than, you know, maybe not. Maybe it wouldn't have happened in this case. But it seems like it does make sense to determine whether there are other providers in the state, for comparison's sake. You know what it is that you want in terms of specs. I'm assuming. You obviously do.
we just don't know size.
Right, but, you know, if you give them the opportunity to come and take the measurements, and of course, if you've got companies that say, no, we're not going to come that far, well, then I think it's, you know, it's sort of a moot point. But I do agree with Carl that you have to give them, we have to give them a chance at least, in terms of spending the dollars. If we can get, you know, maybe we could get the same thing for less, through another vendor that's not an internet person, that has a little bit more reliability. You know, if this stuff doesn't meet, you know, your satisfaction.
May I ask one other question, Joe? Since we're only 40 miles from Albany, and that, I presume they have a large firefighting force in and around the Capitol, is there any reason why we couldn't check to see what vendors they use in New York? Granted, I would prefer to buy something in Vermont, but I'd like to know that, again, we're measuring apples to apples. Or is that not practical?
It really isn't practical for me to do that. This took an enormous amount of my time. You know, I have so much time to give, and to try to contact somebody in Albany, a department or whatever, is not something that I'm going to do.
It looks like the major differences are the coat and the pants.
Right.
I mean, you got $350 in the coat and $200 on the pants difference. And those are important, that they have to fit together well. The coat's got to cover the pants. Everything else is very comparable.
I mean, it's, you know, the bottom line is certainly it's within the budget. And I think we're going into a time of year where, frankly, I'd rather not spend a whole lot of time, you know, looking elsewhere right now, because I think our guys ought to be safe. And again, we're coming into a heating season now with fires, hopefully not many. But I do think that it makes sense to just determine whether there are other vendors out there that are not internet vendors, that are real people in the state that do this sort of thing. Maybe there aren't. Maybe they're not out there.
And if they're not, then we can easily make it a sole source procurement.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
I am concerned that,
Yep.
again, every one of us here want your guys to be safe and have the best equipment, but I'm also concerned about the rules that we set, because if we say, that's okay, you know, we're near the firefighting season and it's a Vermont firm and, okay, it's only $1,000, next time it might be thrown in our faces to how could you do that then and not do it now?
I think I would agree with Joe on this, frankly. The idea that a custom piece of tailored safety equipment costs, $1,000 more to have it measured, tailored, backed up. If it doesn't work, that local vendor's going to take the risk for that. The fact that you can buy it stock off the internet with no warranty for $1,000 less, to me, doesn't, that tells me that $6,000 or the higher bid is probably a good one. If the best you can do for no warranty and no guarantee is $1,000 less, I'd just as soon not see our demand that our firefighters spend that much more time
But
shuffling
Jim,
paperwork.
the point is not, we're in agreement, you know?
Right.
The point is that we're not suggesting we should choose another one off the internet. We're suggesting there may be comparable vendors that do exactly what the Brattleboro firm does, that are cheaper. We don't know, because we weren't comparing the Brattleboro firm to comparable vendors. We're
But-
comparing them to vendors that we knew we weren't going to choose.
Now, I'm hearing that we've got an administrative support issue, that Joe doesn't have the time right now, the fire department doesn't have the administrative support. Quite frankly, I don't, even though I'm bringing somebody new on board to try to help unclog the grid. There are just a couple times a year, every now and then, where Joe really does need support. And I think we need to start thinking about how we can make that more available for stuff like this, for administrative research or procurement or whatever. So, I raised in our emails back and forth with Joe the very same issue as you, Carl. And the only thing I might suggest is that maybe the gal that's come on board for me part-time could help, but I would certainly not trust her to be able to represent, without a heck of a lot of training, somebody's expertise within the fire department to do the price comparison and shopping. So it's almost like we would need another member of the fire department to step forward, at least in this instance, to help
Well,
out.
why couldn't Joe draw up the specs, what he wants for a coat and all this, and that, and the other thing, and then just search around till you find another company,
Or if the
and
issue
then go
is,
to a bid?
if the issue is simply whether they'll come out and measure, that's the issue. Will they come out and measure our people? They'll be
Yeah.
responsible for their measurements.
No, I mean, that's gotta fit. I mean, that's, no question of that.
Yeah, certainly.
Well, what's the pleasure of the board? I mean, do we want to, we would need a motion to authorize this purchase.
I would make a motion that we go with to the Reynolds and Son, but in the future that we do a little more,
That we follow the procurement policy.
well, and find in the future, see if we can, have him make up what he wants, the material list, and do a little research, see if we can find somebody else and do the measuring, and make sure the stuff fits. I mean, you need that right now, right?
I mean, it takes a while to get.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but I mean, you wouldn't want to put it off for 6 months or something.
No, that would,
Would that be okay with you, Joe, if we said we'll approve this purchase, but the next time we want to see 3 bids from
If they're
vendors
there.
that do the
If
measurements?
they're there.
Can I make a procedural suggestion? And I don't have the rules in front of me, but if it's our policy to go with the sole source procurement only in certain circumstances, it's just policy, I suggest the first motion should be that we waive the policy in this particular case due to the unique circumstances of time of year, whatever it is, only at one time, so that the policy can be waived. And then we vote on using the vendor that Joe would like to use. So that way we recognize what we're doing, as opposed to, on paper, looks like we've just ignored our own approach.
I think that's a
But
really
our
good
policy on
idea.
getting different bids does not require us to go with the cheapest one, does it?
No,
No.
no, it doesn't at all.
So I don't feel like we're violating our policy by accepting this bid. But you're suggesting we need to waive the policy to accept
I'm
this bid?
suggesting we don't have but one bid.
I'm saying we have 3 bids, and I think I can
You have 3 quotes.
do the interpretation that says,
Yeah.
like I said before, $5,000 for no guarantee, you do the measurements, versus $6,000 for guaranteed, and they do the measurements.
But we
I think
know
those-
that the two that came off the internet were never going to be considered.
No, that's not true. All I was asked to do was get 3 quotes.
And I'm saying that those 2
I-
quotes reinforce the value of the higher quote.
I didn't preclude anybody. If the guy next door to me gave measurements in fire decks, I certainly would have.
Right, right. I think what we're asking Joe to do in this conversation is to go beyond just getting 3 quotes, and actually trying to determine whether there are vendors, real-life vendors, that would give the same services. And that would be apples to apples.
Well, that's what this is. Joe said it's apples to apples.
Well, but they're not sending someone to measure. It's not, you're not getting the same level of
Right,
service, is what
right.
we're
You're not-
paying
that's exactly right, and that's
$500
what Tim has
more
said,
per
and that's what Joe has
firefighter
said.
to get a custom fit.
Yeah, I'm saying it's apples to apples, but we're comparing, Fuji to Macintosh. And, we want Fuji, but we're saying, well, if Macintosh is this much and Fuji's this much, yep, that's probably a good price for Fuji, is what I'm saying. To carry the Apple analogy to its death.
Well, what's the board's pleasure? We had a motion.
Second.
Charles,
What was the
It
motion,
was,
though?
it was.
Ken made a
the
motion
To
to,
say what exactly?
To purchase the gear from Reynolds and Son.
And
And in the future to, let Joe put the specs out for the material we need, or I don't know what the word I want. The gear he needs, and make an attempt to find somebody else that can do the measuring and locate another company.
maybe solicit other vendors.
Right.
Was there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, discussion?
Yeah, I want to make sure that Ken and I are on the same page with the wording, and the way I would have worded it is to approve this purchase and instruct Joe that we would like to see the next time bids that are more comparable in terms of service to the one that we're accepting.
Yeah, it's all right.
You accept that amendment?
Yep.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention?
Abstain.
Okay, all right. So that would be 410. Is that right?
401.
401. Never going to get it right, folks. All right, Joe? Okay?
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. All right, public comments. Come on up. Did you want to come up and speak?
I'm Jim Vincent, and I live at the corner of Harvest Hill Drive and Elm Street. And I'm here about dumping that's been going on across the street. It's fill, rocks, dirt. So, and the reason I'm here is because people in my street keep asking me what the hell's going on. Because I'm down at the end and I'm right in front of it. So we talked with Tyler. We started this past August, and he doesn't have a permit to dump there.
Who's he? Who is he?
Excuse me?
Who's he?
Tyler said he turned all this over to you, because he's not here anymore, I guess.
So there's a resident dumping?
Wait a minute. There, I have sat down with the zoning administrator on his way out on Friday. He just gave me a summary of
Oh, okay.
everything that he's working on. I
Okay.
cannot do his job for him.
Okay, all right.
It's
Well,
all by statute. He
right.
did inform me
Mhm.
that there is a dumping issue, must be where you're
Yeah,
talking
on Elm
about.
Street.
I don't know by whom.
Yeah, well, the person who owns the land, I think his name is Mike Cole.
And the location again is at the
It's on-
bottom of Harvest Hills?
No, it's on Elm Street, almost across from Harvest Hills, just a
Almost
little below
across, yeah,
there.
yeah.
There's a big field there that,
On the south side?
yeah, it's a big field there they've been dumping in for several years. Tyler said they were supposed to have a permit, and they don't. They never got one. And
This is the landowner dumping material on his own land?
Matt Morris is dumping it.
So Matt Morse,
And-
but he's not the landowner.
No. And DOT also dumped the material when they tore down Natto's old Coles warehouse by the Bennington Railroad, the North Bennington Railroad Station.
So
there's-
V-Trans trucks?
Excuse me?
You saw Department of Transportation vehicles?
No, but they're the ones who were tearing it down and moving everything out of there. So I'm just, their
Surmising.
trucks were there. And they had all their people there. They tore the building down.
The contractor that was tearing that building down.
It was DOT. Yeah, DOT did it. They had the people there.
Because usually when the Department of Transportation looks for special waste depositions, they have to go through a very lengthy process to get an approved site.
Okay, so,
So there must have been a willing landowner. I mean, again, this is all conjecture, but
well, if there's a willing landowner, he had to have a permit, right? According to Tyler, he needed,
All
Well,
they're
people
dumping,
take-
they're dumping is just gravel and stones and
and,
it's all inert
yeah,
stuff, right?
So
I
it's
don't know.
fill material.
I've never heard of
It's
any
fill.
permit for that.
It's fill material, right?
But you said a building was taken down.
yes. There was the old, just right next to the North Bennington Station,
Yeah,
Natto's used to have a coal business.
right.
And DOT came in and tore those buildings down.
And that debris is on this site?
Yeah.
So
So
there's
that's-
marble,
There's marble, there's
there's
concrete.
marble, there's concrete.
Wire.
Timbers. I don't know, it's all overgrown now. It's been there for a while. But there's
I've seen
timbers and
marble.
there's marble and there's concrete.
And that sounds like a C&D dump site to me.
I've been by there 100 times. I've never seen anything but concrete and stone and
Marble.
dirt.
Yeah.
I've never even seen stumps in there. I mean, I'm not saying there isn't now, but
There's stumps, there's people, I saw one guy come in, he'd torn down a chimney and put all the chimney block in there. So
So there,
Tyler had talked to the fella, and the fella said, well, people are dumping without his permission. Well, Matt Morse is the one who's dumping. He's the one who's dumping 90% of it. And Tyler told him to put a, no
told who,
dumping.
Jim? Who? Told who?
told Mike, the owner. The owner.
Okay, so
I
you're
think his name-
representing that the zoning administrator talked to the landowner?
Yes.
Okay.
yes. And he told him, put a sign up and put a barrier there so people couldn't dump.
Mm-hmm.
And he put a little sign up way on this one side of the field. It's gone now. He never put a barrier up. And this last couple weeks, he's been dumping again.
Who's he's been dumping?
Matt Morris.
And what has he been dumping?
The what?
What has he been dumping?
Dirt, stumps, stones, not a lot of stumps, but there's, just sort of an assortment of, I don't know where it's coming from. The point is, he's supposed to have a permit. I don't care what he's dumping, he's supposed to have a permit. He told Tyler that he was just putting it there temporarily, and he was going to take it away. Well, he didn't. He brought a bulldozer and he leveled everything off.
This was the landowner?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So the landowner brought a bulldozer in,
Should the landowner use it as fill material?
as fill. He's using it as fill.
Yeah.
Is there a big depression there? Is that,
Well, yeah, there's apparently, there was a big field there, and sort of a depression down lower than the road. And he's filling it in. I just want to know, does he have a permit? Tyler says he doesn't.
But
So he's not doing something that's legal. What's he doing there? I mean, I'm a neighbor, I have a right to know what's going on.
Well-
He's brought in probably 30, 40 truckloads of material.
we're going to have to look into it. And without a zoning administrator right now, I can't tell you exactly what our own bylaw says, but then would have to get in touch with the state solid waste folks and have an enforcement officer come. If he's running an illegal construction and demo debris landfill, there is an issue.
Yeah.
So it's going to have to be
Well, most of it's dirt
looked at from
and
both
rocks.
local and the state perspective.
Most of it's dirt and rocks. He says some gravel. There was some gravel.
Is there an impact to your property?
Well, there could be. I mean, I don't know what he's doing there. What's he going to do? Put up a bunch of trailers or put a garage in there to work on trucks, or, it's right by a neighborhood. I don't know what he's doing. Because he doesn't have a permit, he hasn't told anybody what he's doing. It's the town's.
First question is a permit needed?
Well, according to Tyler, it is.
And I actually heard this from him, and I did not get the grounds as to why a permit was needed. So I don't understand his interpretation. I
Yeah.
would gladly go back to Tyler.
Construction debris.
So this is an issue that the select board really can't deal with. We love the public comments.
Yeah. Well,
And I know that there is a concern, Jim. It's going to be, hopefully, we're going to have another zoning administrator within, let's say, 3 weeks
Yeah.
or so. But did I understand you to say this has been going on for some time?
For several years.
Several years? Okay, and we're hearing about this now because?
Well, we're hearing about it because they were dumping there, and it just looked like hell. I mean, it was just big piles, and it was coming out by the street, and it just looked awful. I mean, we try and keep our yards up, we try and keep our neighborhood nice. It looked pretty bad. So, we contacted Tyler and saying, what's going on, he's been dumping here, and he says he's not supposed to be, and so he got him to level it off. Most
So
of
that's
it.
why it was,
Most of it.
the bulldozer was moving at Tyler's suggestion.
Well, the first time, I guess, it was Tyler's, and then the second time, it was also, I guess, his. But I just,
Yeah.
somebody needs to look into it, find out what's going on, and let the neighbors know, let us
Sure.
know what's going on. And is it legal? If it's not legal, the town, Tyler said that he was going to send a letter if the guy didn't get back to him, and it could,
I don't
then
think
it
he's
could
had
go
time.
to the courts, and he could be fined for it.
That's still on a to-do list, I think, sitting over
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
For the incoming.
He said he
zoning.
thought he stopped dumping, so he hadn't followed through anymore. But, the point is, he'd already dumped, so what do you do? The guy said he was going to take the stuff out of there because he was putting it there temporarily. He didn't. So, you just can't trust the guy. What's he going to do? I've dealt with this with a zoning administrator here before, with, somebody building off on somebody else's land, and, somebody needs to make sure the laws are followed. And if somebody doesn't follow them, somebody needs to take them to court. Take his land away from him. Do what has to be done to get the job done.
So you just see a general lack of enforcement,
Yeah.
period,
Yeah.
about this particular
Yeah.
instance.
Well,
And other senses too.
And the zoning administrator only works, 8 hours a week?
Yeah, barely more.
Yeah, so, you know, I understand how it's probably hard for somebody in that position to do that, to do much. So maybe, you know, he needs to have a few more hours, or he needs to get some more help someplace.
I think, well, I'm in concurrence, 'cause I've seen I've had 4 exit interviews, and every single zoning administrator said, we need more time.
Yeah,
And this is something that will come up at budget season, which is coming up pretty quickly.
yeah.
So,
So,
all
Jim,
right,
do you
well,
know if Mike Cole, does he live on this property?
he lives, you know where Dr. Frost used to live? Down on White Creek Road?
Yep.
He lives down there. That was all part of that land from Dr. Frost's house.
Have you spoken to Mike Cole?
I thought I'd try and go through the channels first and see what happens. You know,
Has the town been doing any dumping down there, Maggie? Because they're always looking for places to dump a ditch from
That's
when they
right.
clean ditches.
That's right.
So they may well have dumped in there too, for all
I
I know.
haven't seen them, you know, right there, I'm retired, I've been working in my yard a lot this summer, so Matt Morris is the only.
Well, I mean, I've been by there, they've been dumping there for years. I've seen it too. But
Yeah.
I've never seen anything but dirt, stones, and
Yeah,
that's it.
yeah, but even at that, I mean, if you're supposed to have a permit, you know,
I don't know, I've been in construction since 84, 86, and I've never known of a permit for that.
yeah. Well, you
If you
know,
get into demolition debris and,
laws
Right, that's
change
different.
too, you know,
yeah.
so.
Yep.
I'd just like to know, what is the law?
Yeah.
What's going on? You know, It's been going on now for, you know, we've been following this for a couple months now, and we're back to where we were.
Do we not have our zoning laws online now?
They are.
So if you.
But they're also a little hard to interpret sometimes,
at least it's a
especially for
starting
the
point.
uninitiated.
Have you had the opportunity perhaps to look at
I
our?
haven't looked through that, and I'll do that. Just, what's it under?
Bylaws.
Town of Shaftsbury.
Town of Shaftsbury
Shaftesbury.org.
org.
It's relatively
Yeah.
new that the effort
Yeah,
by the
no,
town
we're-
is to get it all online, so
Yep.
just questions like this could
Yeah,
come in knowing what it is you're referring to and say, section so-and-so and so-and says this, doesn't this mean this?
yeah. Yeah.
Well, Jim, I thank you, we all thank you for coming in and bringing it to our attention.
Yeah.
And I
You
can
know,
call
it's got to be followed up, and, you know, unfortunately, we are a little limited because of the lack of a zoning administrator right now, but
Well,
I'm sure
yeah, and I
that
understand.
we'll follow up on it for sure.
And
Yeah.
Tyler was great, I mean, he was very nice to work with, he
Yeah.
really was.
Yeah,
And I just, you
Yeah.
know, it's too bad you lost him,
yeah, well,
because he seemed to know what he was doing.
yeah. Well, the good news is that it's because his own architectural work picked up.
Yeah.
And he just couldn't give us the hours, so that, you know, that's a good thing for him. But it is a loss to the town, so.
Okay,
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks for the comment, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything to stop one of us, me or Ken, from calling this Mike Cole and asking what's going on? At least
No.
give Jim that satisfaction of knowing what's
Absolutely,
going
Yeah.
on.
Nothing, I would say absolutely no problem at all in doing that.
I think I'd want to go down and somebody take a look at it first.
First, yeah.
Right.
Take a look at it, see if you can see any leachate or anything.
Yeah, Ken, let me know when you want to do that, I'll go with you.
And it'd probably be a good idea, even before you take a look at it, find out what the standards are that have to be met,
Yeah, I mean,
as opposed to looking at something that there's no rule against.
as far as I know, unless
Also, it might be
unless you got clean fill, there's
Really not much you can do about it.
nothing, even bricks and,
Right, you do see those signs all around the place.
Clean
Clean
fill
fill
wanted.
wanted,
Sure.
you know, yeah.
But if it isn't clean, if it's
But
concrete
that's
and
the
it's
problem.
wire
If-
and it's
If
nuts
they're
and bolts.
bringing building, you know,
See.
painted, whatever, that's
no,
C and D.
but I mean, like-
That's C
like-
and D.
even concrete. As far as I know, there's no
Yeah,
problem with it.
yeah. Okay, well, let's move on. We have, again, the discussion about the constables. Oh, hi. Here's our constable.
I'm so blind. Figure out who's there.
Couldn't see you behind the guy in camera.
Now, I think that, Margie, you've had a conversation...
You're gonna switch the
Well,
order of the
Am I missing something?
7 o'clock, health insurance options? You're gonna switch it?
Wait a minute, am I looking at the wrong agenda? I'm looking at constables.
Oh, yeah, you've got it. You don't have
Do
the
I have a
most
different
recent
one?
agenda here. Karen will grab
Eight,
the one on.
eight should be the,
I'm sorry,
8 should be
thank you.
health.
I must have, okay.
Oh, the health insurance.
Okay, I apologize. I had, I guess, the original draft of the agenda. So, we've got health insurance, and I apologize, we're more than a half hour behind time, but that's what it is.
Can we take those out of order just to keep Ken
We-
from...
we certainly
Keep Paul
can.
from sitting through the health insurance
I'm
discussion?
happy if the rest of the board agrees.
Yep.
Agreed.
Okay. All right, guys, you want to come up? So this is a continuing discussion on our constable duties and the way it's set up now and whether we want to make any changes. I think since our last board meeting, maybe Margie, you met with...
I have just some very brief feedback in that Paul asked to meet with me shortly after our last meeting. And we started working down a list of potential costs to the town. And that's as far as we got. And it was a chance for me to ask questions of Paul, or Paul to ask questions of me, if, you know, not much happened other than that. I think Paul was trying to clarify for my sake that we are not replacing, or we are not, in his mind, enabling police officers. That's what, he just does not see our constables being police officers, even though the training is very similar. But we, and then we haven't had a chance to get together, Paul, or with the board members at all about anything else about costs.
Okay.
And and I didn't know if you'd had a chance to do any more research, or...
Well, I did.
And this is kind of where we left off, okay? So for everybody's sake tonight, this is all we had roughed out in the way of equipment, gear that might be needed, and of course, I just gave away my chair just for a minute. So this is by no means necessarily a full list of what our startup costs might be. What I understand, as we started making our way down a few essentials, Paul is anticipating on being able to use his connections to procure one or more items on behalf of the constables. Whether or not, I don't know if it's actually, it would be 2 9mm weapons, or if it would actually be 2 sets of French blue pants. I think, yes. So, we have a lot of cost to keep filling in, and
Well,
that's kind of where we
I'm
are.
sorry, go ahead.
That's all.
I haven't had a chance, I've been gone, I apologize, this is the first time I've looked at this, but as far as the, you know, in the weapon arena of things that we would need, pepper spray maybe, because they go outdated and they have date lives on them. I have, I'm sure Paul does, I have my own handcuffs, I have my own handguns that I could use, you know, if they would be approved as service weapons. Holsters, belts, I have all my own police equipment that I'd had when I was a police officer. So, and I have shotguns, I have probably whatever is necessary that we could use. So I don't know if that makes a difference. It certainly does to me, and I'm not against, using my equipment. So I don't know if the town would incur costs regarding that. I don't know how Paul feels about that, but, I'm just looking over the list right now and.
Well, first of all, this is one person's list.
Mhm.
I was being a scribe. I was
No,
taking
I
notes.
understand.
Do you think, is this what the board, the direction of the board wants to go in? I mean, all I'm doing is it worth fleshing this out more in your minds? I don't know. That's what you would like to do tonight.
Well, I think one of the big things for me is dispatch services. I mean, we have to have dispatch
Yep, and that's
services,
not
and
even on this.
we need a contract with someone, I would assume, to do that. I have no idea what that cost could be. And, again, I see the board needing to make a couple of decisions, and probably the first one would be whether or not we want to ask the town to change from elected positions to appointed positions. I think that's a pretty critical first step in this. And I don't think, even if that step was taken, that it necessarily means that you are then policing the town.
You're up, yeah.
That can be a completely separate decision. At least in my mind, that's the way I would see it. So,
I'm not sure that I agree with that. Because
Pardon?
we don't have any other reason that we're entertaining for making the change, do we, except?
Well,
go
I think in a way we do, because if you have an appointed position, there's a certain continuity. Even if you're asking the constable to do what have been the traditional duties in this town, which, obviously the dog control issues are a very big piece of that. I think if you have somebody in place that is going to be in place for 2 or 3 years, again, there's a continuity. They can be, I think, very helpful to the animal control officer because they know the people. I mean, it's sort of the same argument that's being made for policing activities. But they know the folks in town, and they would, over time, know who has issues with their dogs and licensing or not licensing. So I actually see a real benefit to that. And being able to assign certain duties as opposed to, there's just certain statute duties. We have no control over the constables at this point, other than the budget. And the town has chosen to basically zero out the budget until we can figure out this whole issue.
Do I recall that the constable budget now is about 200 a year?
I think it's, yep. It always used to be 100, then we went up to 2, then we zeroed it out, and then we went up to 2 again for this current year.
Which is not very much money. I assume that
No.
that's
No.
just assuming that the constable just served subpoenas or something
Just
like that.
basically
Right.
have certain powers as enumerated in
Yeah.
24 VSA 1936A.
But even that doesn't cover what would be normal constable duties. And the reason it was so low initially, and, we've talked about this, traditionally, going years and years back, it was a volunteer position. And I don't think we ever got a receipt from a constable. It was all volunteer. For the most part, those days are over. It's very expensive for somebody to run their car, and it's hard to get people to volunteer, and I totally understand that. And so, it does bring up this discussion about how much are we going to be budgeting for this position, and if we're doing that, are we doing 1 position, 2 positions, volunteer or appointment? Not volunteer, elected or appointed. So that's why I say, I think that's a bit, and that change can only come from the townspeople. And if the townspeople choose not to go to an appointed multi-year position, then frankly, a lot of this conversation could be a moot point. Because I'm not sure if the board is going to be willing to fund a constable budget to the tune of what could be, $20,000 or $30,000 when there's no control administratively over those positions.
Have we to my recollection, we have not voted on the constable being limited to the duties that would permit us also to have the contract with the sheriff. That is, non-criminal responsibilities.
The board did.
Well, back in '09.
The board did vote to not allow law enforcement.
Right.
um,
Of course, it's not a bind, you can't bind
No, I'm
individual
talking recent,
boards.
you're going back to 2009?
That was only a select board action.
Right, right.
The reason I asked the question is you said, do we need to go for a vote, all right? And ask if it would be appointed as opposed to elected. And when we had the sheriff here, and we had Paul and everybody, the sheriff made clear that if we had constables that had the ability to incarcerate people or
Real law enforcement.
criminal law enforcement,
Yeah, yeah.
his office would have nothing to do with our town. But he did agree that if we had constables who had civil authority to deal with dog issues or not hauling people away because they violated a criminal statute, he would then be able to follow under his policy, have his people here, and we could have a contract with him. So that's the reason why I'm asking if we put this on the calendar for voting by the town, wouldn't we have to identify whether we would move to have appointed positions with only civil enforcement authority, as opposed to just going from elected positions to appointed positions? Or
Wouldn't that be
wrong?
two different,
I'm asking a question.
I think, wouldn't that be two different, I think the first would be changed from elected to an appointed to get a control, and then at some future date, after maybe town meeting day, after we appoint, we could make a motion to appoint with police authority, X and Y or whatever. That's how I would think it would go. Now, I've taken some I've asked around town, quite a few people, what are their thoughts on it? And I've gotten mostly positive feedback. There was a concern that once you get a police department, I'm not saying we're having a police department, we have 2 constables, that it tends to spin out of control. They need this, they will need extra this. I think that's up to the select board right there to stop that. I mean, if we give them a car and they have their uniforms, they got their 20 hours a week or whatever, we work it out. I think it should be more visibility than enforcement. Obviously, they will force if someone's blatantly doing something wrong. I mean, but for the most part, it's a visibility thing. It's a local community initiative. You're paying someone in town, that's money staying in town versus going to the county or wherever it's going. I'm still gathering information. As a matter of fact, I wanted to, for this meeting, is put a pros and cons of both, list them out. And we've got to get more down to the budget stuff, but that's coming up. If we have a direction of which direction we are going to go in, it would allow us to focus more on the budget if we leave it just as it is now, without looking forward to possibly changing over at the next town meeting day or the meeting after the town meeting day. We'll be behind the 8 ball at least, but at least we can talk about it, and until we actually take that vote to give them the police authority or policing authority. I think they're just doing VSA 24 VSA 1936A,
That's right.
whether they're appointed or elected.
That's right.
Yes.
And this goes to Tim's question, that if we, or the question, if we hold a vote and pose the question of going from elected to appointed positions, are we heading down the road? That would be the only reason we would ever float that question to the voters, was because we do see a pending change in duties. Vermont law has always required that each community elect a first constable and provide a second constable may be elected if desire. The statutes have always enabled us also to decide to appoint rather than elect. So that option was always there to communities throughout the state before the changes in statutes requiring upgrading training for any constables. Or
Do we
for
have to have
law
a vote to
enforcement.
change it from elected to appointed,
Yes,
though?
it would have to be, yes, it still, it
Right.
has to be a vote of the people
Any
to
additional
change the
authority?
way you are doing this.
Oh, that makes, then, as far as I see it, you're pretty well stuck until you have that vote.
That's right.
Right, that's
Any
really,
additional
that's the
authority
first.
And
Councilman.
either,
That's the
if you're
first step.
elected or appointed, you are allowed, but limited only, as Mitch says, to the 24 VSA 1936A powers to serve civil or criminal processes, etc., destroy animals, kill injured deer, assist the health officer, serve as a district court officer, remove disorderly people from town meetings or other meetings, collect taxes when no tax collector is elected, and a few other civil duties, as Carl would say.
Let me ask the question then too, if, since 2009, the constable position has been limited to a civil enforcement.
Yeah.
And we want to keep it that way unless at some point in the future we wanted to go with criminal and get rid of the contract we presently have. Why would we need all this equipment? Why would we want the constable carrying guns and handcuffs and shotguns and things like that?
Because if you've got them, if they're actually carrying out law enforcement, we're getting rid of the sheriff, so they're having to make traffic
No, no,
stops?
No, now you're taking another
I'm
step.
saying if.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you said
If they're
if
just
we...
doing civil enforcement, exactly what Margie just read.
Oh, of course,
No, the budget can remain.
Then they wouldn't be carrying any of those. They'd
That-
perhaps have a uniform. Maybe in
Not
that
even.
approach, pepper spray might be more important than guns.
Right.
yeah.
Right, although I do think the budget, the board needs to take a look at the budget, because frankly, the budget we have now doesn't allow any time for making calls regarding dogs, visiting homes when you've got a vicious dog,
Or a mileage.
Yeah, I understand.
or.
Or again, if it's just civil enforcement, you don't need a dispatcher, presumably.
No, absolutely right. That's why I said, I think we've got, two decisions to make, and one really works off the other.
Basically, any additional authority a constable may exercise is determined by the municipality in which he serves, basically the selector. He's at the,
Right,
if he's appointed,
right,
they serve at the pleasure of the select board in the direction of the select board.
right. But I still believe that, in terms of transparency, the community has to understand, and certainly they do. It was a front page article, that we are considering, if they were appointed, to take a look at law enforcement duties. And, before I could even entertain it, frankly, I would need to know what other towns' expenses are. I mean, we've got Pownell. What does Pownell pay to their constable for, I guess, I don't know if it's full-time. I don't have enough.
They contract with Bennington PD, and I don't know the amount, but Ken can
Right.
tell you, do they contract with,
But
for
we need
evidence
those-
and dispatch?
We need those, I think we need those numbers. We
Those,
need
yeah.
to know if we have $26,000 to the sheriffs for 20 hours a week, what's comparable if we're going with constables? What do we get for that? How much is it going to cost us? And, and I do think it's important, although I certainly appreciate the fact that right now we have two constables that have their own resources to bring to the town. That won't always be the case. So, once the town decides to go this route, you are sort of setting something up that, if either Paul or Bob decide, okay, I really do want to retire now and I don't even want to do this, you're looking at appointing somebody else, and maybe those expenses would, I don't know.
Lieutenant Treya said that you could leave it vacant. I
Yeah.
mean, at that point.
Yeah.
And if that were to happen, I guess our fallback would be to contract with the sheriff until we could find a person to appoint, and then he would do a month-by-month contract, or,
We don't know what his policy is.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't.
That's down the road.
And I also think, one of the other very big pieces to this that we have to consider if the board decides to go down this road is the administrative cost to the town. Because there will be costs. They have to be, supervised by the town administrator. So that's additional time, and training. I mean, we're policing. We're our sole police other than the state folks. So, I'm just throwing all of this out. These all have to be a part of any decisions we make.
But as you started the conversation, is the whole start of any of this conversation is go from an elected to an appointed, which we need the townspeople to vote on.
Yep.
Before, and even if they vote to say we can appoint for 3 years, if we don't take that next step to give them the authority to police, then they just continue doing what they're doing today.
Right.
I don't see any harm or foul or any, and it actually adds a little more stability to have to be elected every year, to be a constable, to be any position, is a little much. I think by appointing it for a 2 or 3 year term, it adds more continuity to the position, to the town. And I think, community, Paul's got children in school, he's known around, his daughter's in school. I think it just, to have a vehicle riding around the back roads for, Shaftsbury Constable, taking a loop through the back roads all around town. There's 70+ miles of roads around here. And just to let them know, there's, it's not the sheriff, it's someone that and maybe that'll help. And
Can I just ask what was I haven't read it completely, as far as the original intent when the state included these in the bylaws, what the original intent for the constables were?
I mean, to allow them to have law enforcement authority?
Well, just what their whole purpose and intent of having constables, what was the purpose of that?
Basically, it was to have available very simple civil-related duties available to the town and in the statute, it's listed, as we've read, that's been in the books for years.
I would suggest you never know. At the time when it was voted on, only God, and they knew what it meant, now only God knows.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
and this was, so you're going back, how
Oh,
far
my
back are we
gosh.
going,
Oh, my
1700s?
gosh. I mean, we're talking, they finally got rid of, the Weir of Cowell and the fence view. Maybe we still have fence viewers, I don't know, but, who knows?
I mean, I guess what I'm asking, were they the only police for the town? I mean, did the state police exist back then? I mean, I guess.
state police are new.
No,
They're state police.
No, and so policing has evolved. Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to
Originally, this is my
catch up.
point, originally,
Yeah.
they took care of probably criminal and civil.
Oh, yeah, up
And
until
other
they,
issues back at the time.
they changed this law.
Right.
Yeah, I grew up in a small town where there was a constable since I can remember. Ray Vigor was a constable for all my youth, and then the next person then it seemed to be there was not a constable for a while, and then just maybe no one got elected. And another person was elected, and he was a little gung-ho, and he didn't last long, and now they have another one up there, who you probably know, Paul, Gary Stompsey, or Bruce. Don Bruce knows Gary.
Right, yeah, Don.
So then what's happened is the towns, for whatever reason, have decided over the years to either keep these people as law enforcers or chosen not to because of state police, because of local police jurisdiction and things like that. But yet some of the towns, as we had discussed the last meeting, have ramped their constables up to a level where they do police work and they carry
There you go,
weapons and take care of that. Thank you, Marky. So I guess the board and the townspeople have to come to some kind of conclusion as to whether or not they want, their constable to be policing or not. And at that point, like you said, they can move further. I can say one thing, I agree with what Mitch said earlier, whether you allow these to be appointed positions or allow them to be elected positions continue, this every year is crazy. And, it's just so happened that I think I'm on, like I said, my 5th stint with this, and Dave was also, but there's a potential of this thing turning over every year if something
Right.
happens that way. And that's kind of crazy, because nobody can even begin to learn the aspects of the job in a year's time, and they could be out and another person being in, especially if we move forward and we have to have training. It's going to cost the town a lot more to put people through training every time it turns over. So, whatever option you go, 3 years appointed, it makes sense to go out with that term a lot more time-wise. So I would absolutely agree with that.
Our agenda says that we are to be discussing potential future duties of the Shaftsbury Constables. I'd like to, since time is limited, are we this evening going to vote on whether or not we should put something on the ballot for December?
I'd like to.
And if so, is that going to be just that it goes from an elected position to an appointed position? And based on what Mitch had said earlier, whether or not we will deal with passing criminal responsibilities to the constables is something that would come up perhaps at the March town meeting? Is that what we're talking about? Or are we talking about tonight our contract with the sheriff is going to run out at the end of whenever, and we better decide whether we want these gentlemen will take over the criminal responsibilities? I'm hearing from the board, that's not what we're talking, just the elected to appointed.
Correct. That's,
I'm a little bit hesitant about a December 3rd vote on this, frankly. And the reason I'm hesitant is that I still have some confusion in how I would be answering any member of the public that came to me. I have had actually a few people get in touch with me, and I will send the emails out to the board, who are very hesitant about the town taking on policing duties. One, in fact, was a retired New York City police officer, and he's not at all in favor of our having policing.
But that wouldn't be in December.
No, I know that, but I do think that if we are putting this on the ballot in December, we need to be prepared to answer the questions that people are going to have. Because I think, we have a garage vote, that was the main reason for December's vote. We also have an election for 2 select board seats in December. I am really...
Because that's required of us.
Pardon? That, of course, yes,
Right.
it's required because
Really,
we've got the garage vote coming up. And I'm really hesitant to start muddying the waters with stuff, I'll be perfectly honest. And I think this is a very big decision for the town, because I think the consequences, the following action would be very different from the situation we have right now. And I think it's important for this board to have the answers to the questions, what will it cost this town if we have constables with law enforcement duties? And I don't have nearly enough information to make that decision. I don't see a rush on this. We don't have a situation where we have law enforcement duties that people have been complaining about in town. I've not had anybody come to me, frankly, in all the years that we've had the sheriffs here, saying, I think we have a real problem with the sheriffs. I don't see them around here enough. I don't like what they're doing. And I think, we need to be really careful about how we approach this. I don't think we're in a crisis mode. And if we're trying to rush, then we're rushing language to get onto a December 3rd ballot. Those absentee ballots with that question are going out by, in like 3 weeks or something. I don't feel like we've given enough information out to the public. We just started this conversation, when? A month ago? So,
Can I ask a question?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
why did we start this conversation to begin with? I didn't start it.
No, I know you didn't.
But I came in here 2 weeks ago, and I
Yep.
clearly heard the sheriff. If you guys are going to give the constables police powers, I'm leaving. That's what he said, I'm leaving.
That's what he said.
I didn't say that. I sat and I listened to him, and in my head, I was like, but why? The lieutenant of the state police said the more the merrier, or the more people we have,
Right.
the better the service we can provide. So
Yeah.
if he leaves, if that be the case, regardless, whenever this comes to a vote, the town pays him 26,000 and some change to do traffic enforcement. I don't know of any other reason why we have the sheriff. I mean,
Well, they'll do whatever we ask them to do, Paul. They
But I
have
heard
said
him say
that.
that. I heard
Well, they have said that many times to us.
Right.
If we want them to go into civil court, they'll take the time to do that. If we want them to go on a vicious dog, we want them to do a burn barrel ordinance, they will do that. They will do whatever we direct them
will
to
they
do.
do that outside there 5 hours a day or 4 hours?
They'll do whatever we ask them to do within the 20 hours a week. If we say, we don't want you patrolling the back roads, okay, here's 10 hours we want you to spend in court sitting there on traffic tickets.
Well-
They'll do that.
I don't see the big deal with going from a elected to an appointed and extending the term from 1 to 3 years in December as a major to-do. The major to-do would be in March, or after they don't have to be elected again, or, so their term expires, we appoint them, they have their same duties they have now, and then we can continue to hammer out it's
And
not a crisis, it's a planning thing, and by going from an elected to an appointed position, you can focus the planning a little better.
But you're focusing the planning on what? If you're going to the community and asking them to vote for an appointed position for 3 years, and they're saying why, okay?
Because we're
And
exploring the options available for local policing options.
Okay, and then what about when you have those people that say, well, I'm really nervous about having police in the town, how much is that going to cost us?
But wait a second.
I don't have the answer to that
If I
question.
may jump in there, if somebody, I've also had people say that they have certain concerns about constables. They're afraid of favoritism. It's that simple. They're afraid of favoritism. You're my buddy, it's okay. Here's your ticket. That's what they're afraid of. That's what I've heard. But we're talking, and when somebody asks me why I would be doing it, my answer is real simple and a fact. We have had historical number of break-ins in this town. We want more eyes on the road. This is doing nothing more than already exists under our rules, you say back to 2009, for our constables to enforce civil ordinances, and we want to make sure that these people are people that are going to be there for a longer period so they get to know the ropes, as opposed to every year somebody may have to come in, hypothetically, and have to learn it all over. And it also gives the town the opportunity to see if they're comfortable with more visibility of people that we may discuss transferring criminal responsibilities to. So that to me is a very logical reason to say, well, we don't want to put people on because people are uncomfortable with our own law enforcement. They're not per se law enforcement, they are eyes and ears for the town. And we need more.
And so you feel that this should be done in December as opposed to waiting 3 months later to March, when we would perhaps, I would assume, have a lot more answers to any budgetary questions and, I mean...
I don't see it as, I happen to agree with Mitch, I don't see it as a major hurdle. To me, it's a procedural issue as opposed to a substantive issue.
Before you do anything else, if you're going to appoint them or whatever, to me, it's crazy for a year anyway.
I agree with that. I
I mean,
listen,
so
I
all we're saying,
absolutely
like
agree
Carl
with that.
says, all we're saying is, just make it an appointed position, let the town vote on that, and then we'll figure out where we're gonna go from there,
And then there's some time,
regardless of what you wanna
yeah,
do.
there's time for the town to feel comfortable or not comfortable with that, and the visibility of our constables, hey, they know what they want ultimately to happen if they're more visible and then they're performing their services. That would speak volumes, potentially.
I talked to the chairman of the panel board, and he's real happy with the way it worked out for them. I mean, I didn't get to talk to him about a lot of figures and all that, because we had a very short conversation.
Well, again, obviously, whatever the pleasure of the board is, I'm very concerned about a project the town has been working on for a long time in terms of the garage. That was to be the focus, and I see now that if the board decides they want another question on the ballot, that has to be presented to the community in a very informed way, to do justice to the constables, to do justice to the issue, to do justice to Margie.
Not to me.
Well, no, to you,
But
because it
it's-
could potentially.
I'm worried about the bond vote
It's,
on
yes.
the garage.
Yeah.
That is,
What's the negative impact that you see? Because that is important, certainly. How do you see it
Because
being
I
negative?
do believe that this issue, in terms of the constables, it could be somewhat divisive. It could be somewhat divisive if people don't fully understand it. We have been talking about this for some time as a board, and because of budgetary reasons. As you well know, we knew about the state law in terms of certification. It was the reason, as you say, Bob, it was silly for the board to fund training when it was, you could have somebody train for 4 months and, okay, thanks for my training, I'm gone. So we're pretty familiar with the whole situation. I don't believe that's the case with the town at all. We have sent no notice out to the townspeople. Again, we're looking at then putting something on the ballot that they'll be voting on. Many will be sending in absentee ballots. They may not at all have the benefit of receiving something in the mail with their tax bill that gives them information about the town garage. We've given them nothing other than the conversations we've had at this table, and if they pick up the banner and whatever Derek is writing about it. And I just don't know that that does justice to the community. You may have a lot of people that say, just what you said, Carl, the select board's going to appoint. So they'll put in whoever they want to appoint. That's not the idea behind this at all, but I'm concerned about confusion. And, we've actually, there's 3 of us, myself, Ken, and Tim, who sit in the garage committee. And that committee has worked with a previous committee for years and years to try to get the word out on the town garage. And, this could be a very, it's a big change for the town in terms of constables. Doesn't seem like much to us, makes all kinds of sense in the world. But that's my concern, and that's why I just wonder, is there any reason why we wouldn't wait until March, and frankly, do a lot more fleshing out on the budgets? Because if, it's nothing that's going to change until, well, frankly, July 1, depending upon what we do with the sheriff's contract, which ends, by the way, in about a month.
Okay, then what are you
So
gonna do?
we'll have no police services.
What do you do with the sheriff's contract?
That's exactly right.
Do you renew that for another year?
Well, I think the board needs to at least renew it through the end of the fiscal year.
Frankly, I didn't like the idea of basically being, well, you're gonna either take it or I'm gonna give you an ultimatum. I don't really like that either.
Well, but it really is the only game in town right now for us, Kenny. And it hasn't been a bad one. Again,
No, I'm not saying it has. I'm not saying that, but
we have received the services that we have asked
I thought this
for.
was a team effort. We're gonna sit here and,
I used to like AT&T too. Bob Bell.
Can I take a turn?
Personally, I don't see, I think that if you're, just for efficiency only, if you don't vote on this now to a point, and get a vote, get that straightened out, then what are you gonna do? Put these guys back up for another year next spring to be
That's
voted
basically
on?
what it comes down to.
The way I look at it, I mean, all you're doing is a procedural thing, get it out of the way and then go from there. You really haven't changed anything.
Well, I don't know why you couldn't, well, that's an interesting question. Legally, we'd have to find out if we, I don't know. That's a really interesting question. For March, if the board put the question to the voters, that the constable position would be appointed as opposed to elected. So, and I guess it would take an attorney to try to figure out, in the event that that they would file their petitions for a one-year appointment.
Right, if it fails.
And then in the event
then you have to have
that
elected
this,
constables.
right, I mean, I imagine you'd have to get some kind of legal
Yeah, and
wording.
that can be
If you
worked
went,
out.
if you went to March and where it is right now, they'd have to run for election again.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though, Kenny. Maybe there's a way of determining, in terms of how the warning goes out on that.
Right. So
So that if there's a positive vote on the appointment, that those who are elected to the position, that would be a moot point.
Yeah.
If on the same day, the voters by Australian ballot are saying it should be an appointed position.
I think things take plenty of time to do them as it is now. I'd like to see things move along a little faster sometimes.
Karen makes a very strong point in my mind, though. The town needs desperately a new garage. It was voted down. You know the reasons why it was voted down,
Yeah.
better than any of us.
I know.
You also know probably better than any of us the likelihood or the difficulties that may occur in the next vote, even with the efforts, your own efforts to get it done, and the potential for creating any rocking of the boat. Even though I don't know how much it would rock, I defer very much to Karen's pulse on this town to know whether or not that could be an issue for a lot of people. Do you think it'd be an issue for a lot of
No.
people? No.
I don't. I don't. I just think that we gotta do something with this. The constable situation, as far as I'm concerned, right now is ridiculous. To let them guys go out there for a year like that, and if you're gonna make it 3 years as an appointment, then at least you're gonna get continuity of the guys you got, whether you go to law enforcement or you don't.
You have another choice. You can extend the term of your elected constables.
Correct.
Right,
Yeah,
we could
I mean,
have
I
that 2
haven't-
years.
I haven't heard all of the options on the table, and I think that's where Mitch was
Yeah.
probably alluding to, or it could happen at any point in your the decision timeline,
Right.
I suppose, there are other community policing options.
Right. I mean, all I'm saying, as far as I'm concerned, a year, regardless if it's elected or appointed, it's crazy.
Yeah, that it's too short a time
It's
period.
crazy.
So I
Nobody-
think that's one,
Like Paul said, you're just gonna get there, you're gonna start know what the heck you're doing, and then you're gone. You could be gone.
so I think that what you've identified is where there is absolute common ground between all board members.
Except for the timing
1 to 3 years.
of voting on this.
The common ground is what, say again?
That
Changing the
one
term.
term,
Period.
a one-year term is too short.
I agree with Karen. I mean, we've been working on this garage. We're having a special vote for the garage. We're only having select board elections because the state requires that if you have an election for something else, you got to replace the appointed people or elect the appointed people. The fact that this board is divided, and I'm divided on this issue. I think that we haven't come to consensus. The only way where I would endorse putting something on the December ballot is if it's a slam dunk. And the fact that we've been arguing about this just tonight for an hour it's not a slam dunk. We need to talk about it more. I think there's no hurry to put this on the December ballot, give people a reason to get riled up about something not related to the garage and vote against the garage just because they're riled up.
I don't see where that's gonna cause anything against the garage at all. I really don't.
For all the reasons that those of us who aren't convinced that the adding police duties to the constable is the right way to go.
So there's only 3
And
articles.
the fact that you're going to put that on the ballot, a lot of people are going to rightly or wrongly interpret that that's where we're headed. And quite frankly, I think that's where we started out being headed. Karen gave some reasons for why we would want to appoint otherwise. We've talked about some reasons for appointing otherwise, but the reason we're having this discussion is we wanted to talk about making the constable a policeman. And if that comes up on the December ballot, that's going to be an issue, whether it ought to be or not. And I think we need to spread that conversation out and focus on the garage and get that done. That's got to get done.
There's only 3 things on this election ballot, the garage and us two.
The vote and the garage. That's why we're having a special meeting.
That's
That was the
it
point.
right now.
We need to have an informational meeting prior to, and the intent of that informational meeting was to give the presentation on the garage. Now, if the board proposes to have another question completely unrelated to the garage, you need either a second informational meeting, the select board, to do it justice,
Or you roll it into one.
or you roll it into one. So, people are coming to hear the garage presentation and the constable
Is that
presentation.
going to be at the school?
Well, traditionally, we do informational meetings at the school prior to a special election.
So
Just because of space.
is this the last meeting we can make a decision on whether to put it on the ballot?
Unless we had a special meeting next Monday, or any time between now and Monday.
Because we have to warn, my deadline to warn is November 1st.
And the 4th is our next meeting?
The 4th is your next regularly scheduled meeting. But you're going to start to meet more frequently.
We need, budget is looming.
I think are we going to look in the budget to possibly get a constable vehicle? Are we going to look into the budget, or are we just going to level fund $200 to the constable for a year's term? I mean, that's all going to be part of the budget conversation as far as I can tell.
I wouldn't even get into that, Mitch. I just put that one item on there saying, are we gonna appoint the constables? That's it. Clear. No strings, no nothing. Don't even mention anything else.
Yeah. I mean,
But Mitch raises a good point, but then we're just
Right.
kind of kicking the can down the road. We're ignoring the
Right.
gorilla in the room.
Right.
Washington's good at it, why can't we?
Because we're better than Washington,
Yeah, we're
Kenny.
better.
I hope so.
We're transparent, we're trying to bring the information to the people before they make a decision. And I don't have it. I don't have the information.
Nobody said you got to Hawaii.
Mitch, my thought
I'm gonna take
to
that
the answer to your question is that, without a directive from the people on the elected versus appointed question, you really don't have
any focus?
useful information for the budgeting
You're stuck.
process. But it's useful, but it doesn't preclude you from not formulating a budget based on certain outcomes in March, but you would have to be able to build consensus in the budget process about this as a community policing option, and then really stick with it, and advocate for it at March town meeting,
Well,
so that your ballot item passes along with the budget.
Right, I mean, but even that thinking, to me, is way beyond where I am right now. As far as I can see, the only thing that is anywhere near me, or anything I'm even thinking about, is changing it from appointed to elected, or from elected to appointed for continuity.
But for a longer term?
Yeah,
Or just,
yeah.
okay.
No,
Then
for
what do you
longer
think,
time.
what are you thinking, Ken?
3 years.
So 3 years, okay.
And you feel that that's an urgent issue?
I think it's an election.
That's my
I don't see why you gotta keep
question.
putting it off and off and off.
I think if it's not an urgent issue, we should keep it off the December ballot.
Right, because right now, they're in an elected position that runs until March, okay? So even if the town votes in December 3rd, you know, they're still an elected position.
Right.
It's not going to become effective on
Until
December 3rd. And so again, you know, there's just so much murkiness out there, and the costs are murky, and certainly the board could determine to fund the sheriff or policing services. We could take the amount of money that's in there now or up it to 26.5, which would be the equivalent of 20 hours at 25.50. And then if the town decides March 3rd they want these to be appointed positions, and we have more budgetary information in terms of the cost of constables versus sheriff services, you know, at that point, I think, even though you haven't budgeted specifically, you've got the money in the budget. So whether it's for a sheriff's contract, or whether it's for the constables, at that point, during the budget season, the select board can determine, okay, how many hours a week do we want policing services in this town, whether it's constables, whether it is sheriffs.
Oh, I understand all
And-
that, Karen, but all I'm saying is, to me, you can't go anywhere until you determine what you're gonna do, and you gotta get more than 1 year term.
Kenny, there's no argument from, I don't think anybody argues that point. The only thing that I am arguing is the timing of that decision. And I just don't see the critical need for a December 3rd vote on that.
I don't think it's
because-
critical, I'm just saying, I don't think it's gonna make any difference on that bond vote, one way or the other.
But there's a chance that it could. And that's my question, is do you want to take that chance? For what? What are we gaining? Because nothing's going to change between December 3rd, that I see, between December 3rd and our March vote.
And nothing would change because they're elected until the end of their term.
That's right. That's right.
And-
So,
But I'm still,
anyway, I think we've certainly talked around this enough for tonight. We do have, a lot of other stuff on the agenda. And I guess I would ask for a motion.
I'd make a motion that we put it on the December vote to make them appointed for 3 years.
Okay, motion?
A motion to appoint,
Appoint the constables for 3 years.
okay, a first and second constable, that we would have 2 constables appointed for 3 years.
Right.
To go from an elected position to an
Appointed.
appointed position.
changing the term to 3 years. I'll second
Do we
it.
have a second? Is there any more discussion?
I'll just say again, I agree with Karen strongly that
Do we have a second?
We do,
Yeah.
Mitch.
Okay.
that the December ballot is for something that everybody agrees is not controversial. We all know we need a garage. We know we've done the best job we can do to get the garage. And we need to work all of our efforts to make sure that that passes. And while you may not think it's controversial and you may not think it's controversial, I think it's controversial, and I think it's going to muddy the waters on the garage vote. And I don't believe there's any urgency that says we have to do it in December.
And I'm going to vote against the motion, and again, it's not because I don't support appointing the constables to a 3-year position. I've, talked about this for several years, that, I don't see any sense in making changes unless we appoint the constables. But again, for all the reasons that I've stated, I don't think that this is the best timing, and I don't think it's in the interest of the townspeople in terms of giving them the information that they need in the time that they need to make the decision.
And I would say, I would like to be able to vote for putting it on the ballot, but I believe your argument has merit, even though sitting here, I'm not quite sure how people could think that it would be detrimental to the ultimate way they would vote on the garage, but I believe it is politically hot, just by putting it on the ballot and by people not knowing anything about it before. I don't think the town can take the chance that it would impact that garage vote in a negative way.
Well, I'll call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Nay. The motion fails on a vote of, let me get this right.
2-3.
2-3, 0.
Motion failed.
But, clearly, this is going to be a subject that's going to continue to be on the Select Board agenda. It'll be a budget item that'll be discussed. We do have to, prior to the end of November, revisit the sheriff's contract. And, extend that through the year, at least, I would imagine, because I don't know what our other options are at this point.
And I would like to see the board work towards putting something for a vote for the March.
Oh, I would.
As it relates to the appointment.
Yep.
And possibly even the law enforcement side, which may or may not be appropriate at that time, but at least the appointment and the 3-year term. Because that, I agree, it's a pretty simple thing, but you know the town.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm not saying I'd vote for the law enforcement part of it anyway. I've got a lot of things, I told Paul already. I've got a lot of things planned out for, I'm gonna vote for it.
And I think we may have two questions. We may have the question of the appointment on the March 3rd ballot, and we may also have a question to elect for 2 years. So, I don't know. People may vote down the appointment, and they may say, yeah, I want to elect them, but I want it for 2 years.
Yeah, but I mean, if we could get.
So there are options, I think.
Like Paul got a vehicle for $4,000.
Well, yeah, I mean, that stuff's to be determined in.
But I mean, if you could get with a small outlay, get what you want, get more hours out of it, then I would be for it. But I gotta find out first.
Right. I think there's a lot of information
jump right into it.
we still need to find out.
Just because we got 2 nice guys here.
No, again, we're really fortunate.
Yeah.
We're really fortunate, and this, frankly, I don't think this would really even be before us if we didn't have the benefit of 2 guys like this with their background. I don't think that this would have come, as much onto the front burner as it has. But
I don't think it's going to leave the front burner either.
It's not going to. And I think, this really is an opportunity, but I think we need to be sure that we're doing it the right way and that the town is fully informed when they make that decision. I think we owe it to them. And we owe it to you guys. I mean, you need to have the support. If that vote is taken, you need to know that you have the support. And I just, I don't, well, anyway, we've talked enough, I think, unless anyone else has anything that they want to add.
I'm going to be in touch with the constables, because in the near future, I think we still need to work on
I think,
the costs.
yeah.
Because it'll help in the budgeting process.
That's fine, for sure.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Okay.
Health?
We're on to health. Now, I was
Really
not
interesting
here.
stuff.
I'm sorry. Thank you,
The wrong
Jim.
name, it's Mike Cloud.
Okay, thank you.
And,
Thank you, Jim.
And there's, in the Shaftsbury bylaws, page 47.
Yeah, section 8.
Is permits.
Okay, and it's referenced in terms of the type of activity that he's...
Any kind of change to
8.1.
land,
Okay,
buildings or anything like
Okay.
that needs a permit.
thanks,
What was that
Jim.
name? Cloud?
Cloud,
C-L-O-U-D?
yep. And the reference in the bylaws is section 8.1.
8.1?
8.1, yeah. Okay, so you all, I was meeting my new grandbaby last week when you all had the update on the health insurance. So I'm going to ask, I think, that Margie or Tim, I know Tim and Mitch had done a lot of work on some comparisons between current
Spreadsheet Ken Harrington wants. to
health
do that.
and some of the new plans.
David Sickle gave us a spreadsheet that gave a comparison of the Platinum and the Gold plan. And I guess his information seemed to me to suggest that the Gold plan was the closest thing to what we have now, whereas previously I'd been thinking that the Platinum plan was the closest thing to what we have now. And so I spent a lot of time just trying to understand the difference between the Platinum and the Gold and what the choice that we were making there is. And I can...
Yeah, I've got that, Margie. I was just looking for the... Go ahead.
I can go into those numbers, or Mitch, maybe you can, or Carl, you were there. Recall more of what new information was brought in the meeting that Karen was not in.
Based on my notes, he affirms several things that we had already known, and he was confirming that if we were talking about the Platinum plan, that would be 90% of the premiums, what we would be doing. But one of the things that he pointed out, more importantly, was he said really the Gold plan was the closest to what we had right now, as opposed to what we had been working with before, the Platinum plan, which was provided to us by Larry
That was Larry Smith.
Larry Smith? I don't know where my copy of that is right now. That was this thing that was multicolor. This multicolor thing. We had been working off the premise that the Platinum plan at 90% was the closest to what we had. And Mr. Sickle said, well, really, it's the Gold plan and he calculated that the town paying 84% of it and the employee paying 14% of it. The huge, and in doing that, the huge difference between those two plans was that the Gold plan would reduce the premiums that the employees would pay very, very low. It was like a few dollars a month, if I recall, out of the pocket.
Yeah, I would say that the Gold plan, according to the David Sickle analysis, keeps the monthly premiums from the employee's point of view the same.
Same.
The Gold.
The Gold. However, the catastrophic deductible is much, much higher. And we go to this big thing, where is it?
Well, the Gold plan with the HRA is comparable to what we have for the exact amount of $26,000 that we pay for their deductible. The problem being, go ahead.
But the HRA that we would put in place would, I think it was like $2,000 that we were expecting per person. But using this thing to find out what the catastrophic would be under the Gold plan, you'll see that it is $4,250 for an individual and $8,500 for a family. So even if we put $2,000 in an HRA, God forbid if anybody had a catastrophic event, their potential out-of-pocket per year would be as much as $8,500 for their family. Whereas if we went with the Platinum plan, the maximum they would have to be out-of-pocket for catastrophic would be $1,250 for the person and $2,500 for the family. However, the Platinum plan would require, based on what we would be paying in, that the individuals would have a premium of approximately $50 a month, as opposed to the wash that would occur for the Gold plan.
The family would pay $50 more a month.
And what we kept going round and round on during our discussions was, what is better, asking the employees to shell out more money per month as their premiums, and knowing that if anything seriously happened, they would probably be covered by our HRA, or going with a gold plan where they wouldn't have to pay out anything in a premium, but if somebody had a serious illness or accident, they could be exposed to as much as $6,500 after we paid $2,000 every year.
Can I?
And then, but you came up with the proposal when we were discussing it afterwards about perhaps going with a gold plan, why it would be better.
Yeah, well, before we go there, I wanted to make sure that, just to clarify your point a little bit, what our employees have now is better than anything that will exist in Vermont as of the first of the year.
Right.
So
Right.
they are going to face more out-of-pocket expenses to the tune of thousands of dollars
Right.
in a worst-case scenario, whatever we do.
Yep.
And also, he did clarify, I asked the question, were there any Vermont agencies that would administer the HRA for us? And he said no. He said there are third parties that could administer an HRA for us, but that, and he mentioned, for instance, Blue Cross Blue Shield might do it without cost to any employee that was covered on a Blue Cross Blue Shield plan. But if there was somebody who was not covered on a Blue Shield plan, they would still administer it, but at a fee.
Now, do all of the plans allow HRAs?
No, very few.
That's my question, yeah. I thought that there were very few, that most allowed HSAs.
Actually, no, it's the other way. Can be paired with there are only two plans to be paired with health savings accounts.
That's a high
Silver and the
deductible, is a health
bronze.
savings.
Okay,
High
so
deductible
HRAs,
is for any plan. The town could fund an HRA on any plan to
Okay.
cover their deductibles.
okay,
Currently, we spend $2,000 and $4,000 single family
right,
to cover their deductibles.
right. Now, I was just a little bit curious, I think somebody in reading the premiums, I mean, I was looking at the premium cost for a family under the current plan of about $180 on this, and I was looking at $163.76. Oh, that's for 10%, not the 14%.
Yes.
You were figuring it not based on this.
No, we were
Correct.
figuring based on what he provided us.
Okay.
Do you have a copy of this?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
And he did
Yes, I do.
say,
Yes, I do.
that Mike, or the sickle guy, said that we could choose any plan and we could make any combination of HRA and premium payments to make it as close as possible to what they have today, if that's what we want to do.
Right, okay. Now, so my next question is, right now, we have different individuals with different price plans. So we have a number of single plans that, the HRA is a lot less expensive to the town, because the premiums obviously are less, and the deductible is less. Am I right that we have to place or set aside the same amount of money for each employee?
Similarly
Correct.
situated.
You can't take,
Similarly situated. So in other words, we don't have to say, we can say, okay, for a single plan, this is how much we'll set aside. For a two-person, okay.
well,
That's a big
But what
answer.
you can't do
I mean,
is,
for the HRA, you're saying?
Yes.
Not for the premium?
Yes,
Okay.
for the HRA. Well, but the
No.
HRA would also,
You can't give everyone $500 premium and have them pick the plan they want and put that extra into an HRA. The IRS doesn't allow it.
That's right.
no, yeah, that wasn't what I was meaning. That
And you
wasn't what I
can't-
was meaning.
you also cannot create a different amount in the HRA for a different plan.
Say that again?
You can't put a different amount in the HRA if they pick a different plan.
Right.
You pick how much they get in the
Yes.
HRA.
Based on a certain
Whichever plan they pick, they get that HRA.
That's right, yes, I get that. Okay,
So if,
okay.
is this where we want to go through the numbers I got? Or do we have more background?
I think the thing that we discussed would be something that you should present now, because it certainly made sense if we got the numbers right.
Yeah, so this page with the arrows on it,
Yep,
so this is from the sickle spreadsheet, where starting on the upper left, we're looking at the current monthly premiums, how much is the goal plan, how much is the difference. So that middle bold column in the middle that says the difference between what they're paying per month currently and what they would pay per month on the gold. 7 minus 7.2, where minus means they're paying more. To me, those numbers are a wash. Essentially,
yeah,
if we go with a gold plan, according to the sickle analysis, they would pay the same per month.
right.
On the far right is their worst-case scenario out-of-pocket for a year. And I have added the prescription out-of-pocket and the medical out-of-pocket. Because I believe right now, it's all zero.
Yeah,
And so,
right.
although, you know, like I said in my email, in a $5 copay, you're not going to hit your $1,200, $1,250 prescription copay, but if you're getting cancer drugs, you very well might. So I think that's the number that describes the worst-case scenario. So, and this, all of the, this is with a $2,000 and a $4,000 HRA that we set up for them.
One quick question, Tim.
Yeah.
From his analysis, the out-of-pocket max on the prescription coverage, that's completely separate, that does not at all, you can't combine that into the out-of-pocket deductible? Those are two separate?
No, I have combined.
No,
they're
you've
different.
combined the cost,
They're not
but in other
integrated.
words, they're not integrated.
Not
For
integrated.
That's not-
platinum, it's non-integrated. For the gold,
Non-integrated.
And I'm
it's
looking
integrated.
at, I'm looking at gold aggregate, so that makes me, I mean, I'm just wondering, for a single, that $1,250 doesn't apply to the $4,250 out-of-pocket max deductible?
I'm pretty sure the integrated no means no, they are not in, they do not, that,
They're independent.
they're independent.
Where does it
They're-
say, I'm looking at aggregate.
There's an integrated yes/no column on there,
It's a row.
a row.
It's a row about 6 rows
Oh,
down,
right,
5 rows
okay,
down.
okay. All right, this says integrated, yes. With the Blue Cross Blue
From Blue
Shield?
Cross Blue Shield?
Yeah, so that makes me wonder, is it really 4,250, 8,500 with the prescription included in that?
No, it goes to 5,500 and 11,000.
It's,
Then what does integrated deductible mean?
Oh, wait a minute, integrated.
Because this is saying yes. It says, yes, it is an integrated deductible.
no, it says
I
no
guess-
on my piece of paper.
Right, she's going over to BCBS column over to the right.
I'm looking at a non-standard, maybe I'm
You're
looking at the wrong
Blue Cross Blue
thing.
Shield.
Okay, I haven't looked at the non-standard plans.
We were just looking at the standard deductible plans.
Actually, Karen, I take that back, because that doesn't make sense. For the gold
Again, maybe-
blue for you, it's an aggregate deductible, and it's also integrated, so that means that the 4,250 and 8,500 would be the highest exposure.
Yeah.
Whereas
That's the
over
same as
under
it is with a
platinum-
deductible plan.
Whereas over on platinum, it's stacked, and it's an integrated, it's not integrated.
Right.
So member A of the family can reach the deductible, but member B or member C would also have to reach the individual deductible.
2 times. Two
Yeah,
of the
2
individual,
times.
two out of the family.
Right, so it, yeah.
Two times.
So you have to add,
Okay.
it becomes 2,500 and 5,000 exposure
Aggregate is,
for the platinum
I don't know.
out of pocket. Is
Could-
that what Tim came up with?
What did you just to say that aggregate means?
Yes, that's what you did. That's what you did.
Aggregate versus stacked? I didn't catch that.
Aggregate is the same as a family deductible, as far as I can tell.
So it's two
I
times
just don't see
individual,
any other
basically 45.
difference.
Did you have a chance to run this by David, just to be sure that we are, that we're evaluating these things properly in terms of the deductible exposure?
No, but we did
Well,
ask him whatever we came up with, we would like to run by him before we went with it,
Okay,
to confirm that
Yeah.
we had it straight.
Yeah,
and said
yeah,
for
He
sure.
said definitely.
Well, I did look up what integrated means on Vermont Health Connect, and it
Yeah.
does mean that RX plus medical out-of-pocket is what you're looking at.
Right.
In your worst case. What I don't understand is what aggregated means under the non-standard plans, and
Is that if you had a family, it would be, any individual would be aggregated
right.
toward your deductible. So if you had 5 kids, you wouldn't have, but it says 2 times,
Yeah,
2 times individual.
well, anyway, where Carl and I got to kind of at the end of the discussion the other day was that it seemed like if we offer the employees, you're going to pay the same, but you're going to get less, versus you're going to pay more and get less, just not as less, didn't seem like the right choice. And also, if we offer the gold plan,
The standard deductible goal plan.
yes, the standard plan, the employee has the option of paying that extra $50 a month out of his own pocket if he wants to.
So he could still go to platinum, in other
He could
words.
still go to
Right.
platinum.
Right,
But if we say platinum,
If we say platinum, we're locking him into, if we keep this revenue neutral to the town, we're locking him into that smaller HRA. And so we're essentially picking the platinum plan for him because, I would think, because there would be no real incentive that I can think of for him to pick anything else.
and David Sickle did say we can steer people, which is fine. It's just instructing them. So even though what has just been said is true, that would not be mandating that they go with platinum, it's merely steering them to it.
Yeah, but if we,
Even though I know there's much of a difference to it.
yeah, if we say we're going to fund the platinum plan, the only reason that anybody would pick any other plan is so they can have less health coverage.
Yeah.
For no more money to them, because we're not going to give them that difference.
And our concern when we were chatting about it was that our employees may well say, well, look, I'm 20-something, 30-something, I've always been in good health, everybody's been fine. What do I need to pay an additional $50 a month for that plan, even though if anything happened to us, if we stepped across the street and didn't make it, our out-of-pocket would be much less, as opposed to, hey, if I go with this gold plan, I'm saving myself $50 a month, and I'll take the chance that nothing really bad will happen to anybody. At least it gives, they make the choice for themselves, as opposed to if we go with a 90% or 84% of the platinum plan, they're, like Tim said, it would make no sense to go anywhere else.
And that last bit there at the end where the arrows are, I was trying to say, if I were trying to make this decision, what decision would I make? And what I'm looking at there is if you went with gold and put the money aside, how long would it take you to save up the difference in the out-of-pocket between the two plans? So if you go with the...
yeah, I didn't quite, yeah.
Yeah, if you were to say with the...
Explain that again, I don't know.
Say you went with the... We fund the gold plan and the employee is trying to decide if he's going to spend that extra $50 a month, that's almost $600 a year, $578, that he would be spending for a benefit of $3,000 essentially.
I see.
In terms
I
of
see.
the
Yeah.
worst case out of pocket. So if he did that, he would be taking, if he didn't do that, if he went 5 years without having to, hit the max, he'd start to save money if he went with the gold plan.
But again, since that out-of-pocket max is an annual out-of-pocket, if he has an illness that exceeds 1 year, he's still
Right.
got problems.
Could happen
because-
again. Could happen again.
In this particular plan, the one that he has on his thing for the platinum, he is funding the HRA at 6,500 to come out with the same budgetary, basically the same budgetary line, almost. And did you say the budget this year would be going up? Karen, did you say, did we plan for anything more for the budget from last year to this year? Or,
Our current budget is, our premium total was 92,440, no, between what we kick in for premium, we've budgeted $105,502.
so right now we're at,
Premium and deductible
okay.
is the budget line item, total
So,
budget line
100
item.
105, I mean, he's coming up with 99.3 with a $6,500 expense for the HRA for the Platinum plan. So we really have, like, if we could double the deductible on the Platinum plan and make this line even less on the Platinum for the, double this to 1,000, this drops it, I mean, that's where you start getting into, we're giving them a Cadillac now, and the Cadillac was discontinued in this
Right, right.
Vermont Health Connect.
Right, it's true.
So we're giving you a Chevette with a little more power and leather interior.
Well, can you tell me from this colored display, which shows the current, the comparisons with the current, we're looking at which one?
The first page is the Platinum.
I know that, but you're suggesting gold. You were suggesting gold standard
I would,
or no, gold standard.
When we spoke to David, we were only talking those two.
No, he was
Those-
talking blue for you.
Was he talking blue for you? I thought,
That's what his analysis is based on.
let me see, was that, oh, excuse me.
That's a non-standard
It's the
plan.
non-standard, blue for
Non-standard.
you,
Blue for you.
$1,250, $2,500.
$2,500. And what I'm looking at here, if the employer paid the full cost of that, right? The premium cost, the total premium cost would be $85,242. And what you're suggesting is that the town would pay 86% of that? And the remainder would be the employee kick-in? Is that, I'm just trying to figure out what your numbers are based on.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, I'm trying to get a bottom line
There is no
premium, total premium cost to the town
Yeah, but that's.
and
it's not blue for you.
deductible, potential deductible kick-in.
you
Because
have.
you came up,
You have this sheet from Stickles?
yeah,
This is the first page is the current plan, down to the total municipal budget. Then we start into the,
gold blue for you, which I guess is this non-standard. That's the,
and there's a Platinum standard down here. I didn't see that gold for you before, but.
Yeah, I have to confess, I did not pick up on the detail of blue for you.
Yeah, when we were talking, I was thinking the blue, gold and
That
blue.
was, no, he was looking at two different places. He was doing a standard and a non-standard.
So I can't stand by my own analysis now because I've got to go back and look at blue for you. I don't know what aggregated means.
The reason being.
well,
is-
the gold blue for you, this is, well, it looks like that's is that the standard one? No, it's not, it's,
And what is,
well, see, there's two blue for yous. There's a CDPHP, right? On his last page. I'm a little bit confused right now,
yeah, I think
perfectly
we all are.
honest.
How could you
I
possibly
only
get
had
confused
3
on this?
sheets.
So do we know what standard versus non-standard means? To
No,
start
that's
at the
the
top.
current plan. This is our current plan, Karen, the.
I'm looking at- no, I'm looking at-
2,000, 4,000, that's current plan.
That's the
I know,
current.
I'm looking at Gold Blue for You here.
Yeah,
And then-
BHC option 1.
Yeah,
Okay, that's blue for you.
The standard plan deductible actually looks better than the Gold Blue for You, at least as it relates to the medical deductible and the other
Yeah, well,
coverage.
that's
Yes.
the one that Larry Smith,
It does.
we've had
From
analysis
50,
from Blue Cross,
Remember the
VLCT look at
45,
both
what's that?
plans for us.
40, it's the same.
Yeah, but with a
42,
90%
Both
payment,
sides of
weren't they always
8,500,
considering 90% payment?
Well, this,
It is the same.
Or was it 100? I don't even remember.
no.
One's
one-
aggregate.
Non-standard is high deductible, but the total out-of-pocket is the same. So
No,
you'll
this is 100.
pay more
No, it's 100.
most years, but in a worst-case scenario, you would pay the same.
but it's also an integrated deductible, right? So in other words.
Yes.
Your drug deductible is going to go also towards your
Towards the-
out-of-pocket max.
Yeah.
Where my understanding is if it's not integrated, you could be looking at the.
The sum.
You know, you could be looking at a deductible for drug, you could be looking at a medical deductible.
Yeah, well, let's keep that straight. Out-of-pocket and deductible are not the same. The integrated applies to out-of-pocket max, as I understand it. So yes, under the Blue for You, those two are integrated, so the max is the medical max. The worst-case scenario is just the medical out-of-pocket max. Whereas over on the standard plans that are not integrated, the worst-case scenario is medical out-of-pocket plus RX out-of-pocket.
That's right.
The difference between them that I see is the deductible, which is how much you pay before you start getting any health coverage at all.
Mm-hmm.
So the non-standard plans have higher deductibles.
15, 15, yeah.
So on, a high deductible to me means that on a typical year with Blue for You, Gold, and a family, you don't get any medical coverage until you spent $2,500
Yeah.
out of pocket.
Although preventative care gets waived, you see this 3 PCP, mental health office visits.
Yep.
There is some waiving there. Although the drug deductible is waived for generics on the standard plan.
Is it waived, or is that simply what they'll pay?
Well, I'm saying drug deductible waived for generic scripts.
Under which one are you looking?
Standard plan,
Standard plan?
standard gold deductible plan
Yeah,
Coverage.
where are you reading that?
on this thing.
Where
I'm
on it?
looking at standard deductible gold, drug coverage, RX generic, $5.
Well, I'm looking under the deductible out of pocket. It says drug deductible waived for generic scripts. Is this a different sheet?
No, it
Am I
should be the
looking at a
same.
different sheet?
I'm here,
Just can't find that line on mine.
I'm in the first block over on the left.
Oh, under platinum? No, it's still.
No, that's all the plans. It covers all the way across. It's-
And
you got
then-
on
No,
there,
you got a
Kurt?
different
Drug
sheet.
you see this?
deductible waive for
That's what I'm asking. Do I have the same sheet?
No, what? No, they can't be.
generic scripts.
What do you got, Karen, for non-generic drugs?
Well, I want to be sure we're following the same one because it's,
Gotcha.
you know,
Show me on this.
if we're not,
Circle it.
let me see if it's on this. Right here.
Generic scripts.
I see it now.
Drug deductible waiver for generic scripts on gold.
So,
So why does it say RX generic $5 down below?
Well, that's your copay, but it doesn't,
Oh, the deductible is waived, but your copay is $5.
Right.
Okay, okay.
So if it's, if it's a $50 generic drug,
you pay $5
you're going to
for it.
pay $5 and you don't have to worry about any deductible. if it's the first time you've bought a drug.
What have they got on there for non-generic drugs?
40%
Here.
or $40.
Non-preferred brand or preferred brand, I guess, is non-generic, $40.
And non-preferred
My
brand.
wife had one that was $800 a month.
Deductible.
No, straight cash out of my pocket.
Deductible. That was, she had to pay that first.
That's what I had to
That's
pay,
right, that's a
yeah.
deductible.
Yeah.
But here,
Well,
the
no,
deductible-
that was after she's on Social Security, so she got in the donut hole.
but that's a different story.
I understand.
You're getting me confused. This is, for the drug deductible is waived under the gold plan, but only for generic.
Yeah.
So if it's a brand name, that deductible is not waived.
Yeah.
And if it were $800 for her, she'd have to pay just what you're paying. But I'm looking at the Blue Cross Blue Shield Blue for You and the standard plan deductible, and the standard plan deductible gold looks very similar, except for that failure to be integrated, and the deductibles are much, much lower. For a family, it's $1,000 a year, per person.
I mean, this is the first year we're going to be doing this too, so, I mean, it is a learning experience for everybody concerned. I doubt they'll let us make changes mid-year, but,
Wait, excuse me, what, you said $1,000 a per, what did you say,
Me?
Carl? Just, yeah, $1,000 deductible?
It's, if you look at the standard deductible plan, the first line, under
Yeah. I did
gold,
that wrong.
Yep.
it's a family is $1,500. Okay?
Right.
Under the Blue Cross Blue for You, it's $2,500.
Right,
Okay? If you've got to go, that's $1,000 difference.
yes.
But if you go down and you have to have 2 times the individual for a family deductible out of pocket, doesn't that come up to $2,000 difference between the Blue for You and the gold?
You mean when
Because-
they're talking about stacked?
I'm
2
talking about,
times?
I guess, stacked $2.
Yeah, yeah.
For one person, the difference of in a family, it's $1,000, but they're going to look for 2 of them, so it'd be $2,000.
That's right, that's right, that's right. I think that's right. Yeah, I mean, that's the real question, is the, that we just haven't had to deal with at all, is the out-of-pocket exposure to
And
the
we're also dealing with
employees.
abbreviations and
This is-
acronyms
Can
and,
you imagine people trying to negotiate
no, I
this? They
cannot
can't.
imagine people trying to negotiate it.
It just, and we're way ahead of the curve.
All these things have a learning curve. I mean, in 5 years, everybody will know what this means.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
change is tough.
They don't want you to know what it is.
Hey, I don't know how
So-
Medicare works yet either, because I'm only turning 65 next year. That's confusing to me, so. I
When
feel
do we
like I'm
have
in
to
the
make a
same boat.
decision?
Right.
Well, we have to make a decision as we get into, well, actually, no, we have to make a decision soon.
Soon, because we have to
Because
be able to shop.
our employees need to be able to go out there to the exchange.
By December 15th, right?
Tim, wouldn't
They have
your
to-
analysis still pretty much hold, even though you were using the 2 deductible plans? Because the Blue for
Except
You looks, well,
Except for the rate, the
The
monthly
rate, that's right, the
premiums,
rate's
because I used
different.
his premiums, and I
yeah,
was looking at the
right, you're right.
out-of-pocket numbers from a different plan.
Where are the premiums for
97,
this on this sheet? Are they not here? Are they not here?
so you're 24.
They're all down
They're all down the bottom.
They're all down the
They're
bottom.
You're 20, or $37 difference on the single.
And David is willing to
Family is 12.
participate in another
I think generically, Carl, to answer your question, what I was getting at in terms of giving them gold and letting them choose to pay platinum out of pocket if they want to, I have, my sense is that's probably still the way to go, but before I go any further, I want to look at
Well, if
the
you-
rates.
If you look at the premiums under the standard deductible gold, the family is $13.96, and under the Blue for You, it's $12.93, so we're only talking $100 a year. family a difference?
That's per
It's
month.
monthly.
Oh, gee, what am I saying?
That's a monthly,
Yeah,
$100 a month different.
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep. All right, so we need a little bit more work on this.
Yeah.
I think the working session is probably the best time to.
Yep,
to go
no,
at
I
it
agree.
again.
I completely agree. So I was just going to ask what, this week or next week looks like for folks, because we really need to try to wrap this up.
Do we have the luxury of next week?
Well, actually, as I look at the date, well, yeah, we have the luxury of early
Yeah.
next week, yeah. Yeah, but we'd have to make a decision by then. We really need to give the employees word by early
and
November,
then
I
is-
think.
Is the
Yeah,
decision
and
we have
then-
to make, we're gonna give them funding for X amount of dollars?
That's
Like,
right. I think that's what
For
we
the-
do. For a single employee, this is how much we'll fund, I'm guessing.
90%?
For a
90% of-
family employee, or we just say the dollars.
Well, if they don't spend it, it goes away.
I know,
Okay, they don't get it in their pocket, they don't get
No.
it rolled over to any HRA or anything like that, so.
no. I would, that's the way I would look at it. I don't know how the rest of the board would look at it, but, I mean, I
I
think
agree.
we
We're
say,
gonna have
this
to
is how much
spend-
money a single person has, this is how much a two-person, this is how much a family has.
So what do you do if, say, you got a single person now and halfway through the year they get married? Does it
Then we're,
automatically change?
then we're going to overspend the budget for that individual, because I think you have to give them, if the board has decided that they can, we're not limiting, the board can do this. The board can say, we are only going to fund to the level of a single-person plan or a two-person plan. The board can do that. Or my understanding is we can say, we're funding, X number of positions at, however much money. 3 two-person plans,
All right, how does it work if, say, you've got a guy working for us, and his wife works somewhere else and got her own plan? Do we have to cover her, or can she have her own plan someplace else?
It's usually a choice that they get to make.
right.
The employees get to
Well,
make.
I know that's as it is now, but does that change under this new law?
If it's employers offering,
I don't know.
if both your employers offer or are, I don't even know, if you can't necessarily offer health insurance, but if the employers are
Funding health.
helping fund acquisition of health care, if both of them are doing it, you still have a choice. I would have a choice, and my husband would have a choice with his employer. But then you would only be purchasing individual plans, I guess.
Because,
I think with the gold plan, even if we did level fund the HRA at 2,000 and 4,000 like we've done over the years, and we've never really hit that deductible, the whole deductible at this point, we're running about, 80% or something?
Yeah,
19
even
or 20,000
less
out of
than that,
26,000.
Around 18, 19,000 out
Yeah.
of 26. yeah.
So,
Yeah.
the problem with the gold plan, if that isn't the case, is it puts the employee on the hook for much more.
Right.
That's why I'm thinking the platinum with it's the last example that he put out there, BCBS standard plan, it's on page, whatever so it starts at the bottom of the Vermont Health Connect option 2, and it's 86%, it tells you everything. So basically, the total municipal budget would be, and that's with a $500 per single and $1,000 family, independent or family, $6,500. We could even up that $6,500 to $1,000 an individual, and maybe $1,500 for the families, and still be below the 95,000 or 105,000 that we're talking our current budget is gonna be. And they still have the chance of getting hit for $750 or whatever, say we went 1,000, well, $1,250. But
I think we should meet in special session as soon as possible because we'll probably have to do it more than
Yep.
once.
Yep. What does, what's this week look like for folks?
Thursday's no good.
We've got that meeting still Wednesday, right?
Garage,
Garage?
Tomorrow.
but that's Wednesday. I mean, we could meet either an evening meeting or, well, whatever the pleasure of the board is.
It'd have to be evening for me.
Have to
I
be
mean,
evening.
I was down here I was supposed to be gone an hour, and I was here for almost two
All
and a
right,
half.
but Thursday evening would not work for you, you're saying?
I don't think it'll work for Carl either.
No. Or Tim?
Yeah, Thursday's right bad.
Okay, well, if we met tomorrow, it'd have to be an emergency meeting. We don't even have 24
about
hours to notice it.
Monday, I mean,
Friday?
Friday,
Meetings, I could probably,
Why not Monday?
Monday.
Monday at
Yeah, we could.
4. I mean, I could be here at 4, I mean, 3:34.
I prefer to do it during some daylight, I'm a little fresher then.
Tim, how about you?
Not that
Is
it
that
makes a
too early
difference,
for, in
it's,
terms
Turn
of
the
school
clock
stuff?
back, then you could be in trouble.
Yeah, no
3:34, I can
4?
make that.
Margie, that work for you? Monday at 4? All right, let's meet Monday at 4. Because, yeah, it is really getting late. And thank you for all of the work on this. We'll continue to flesh it out. I mean, I'd really like to have, once we come up with a plan, have maybe David, maybe he would be available
Yeah,
by phone for us to say, okay, this is our reasoning, this is what we're looking at as total exposure, is that right? Are we interpreting this
And I
correctly?
can see if he can be available, let's say, 4:30, 4:45.
Yeah.
A check-in.
Yeah,
I'd ask you guys, I had the feeling he was kind of steering us to the gold 8614 plan. Or would you say no?
Yeah, I kind of got that impression.
In terms of
I-
comparability.
I got the impression those were examples he was giving us, and it was pretty much up to us
That's exactly how I took it.
to go 18 or 14 or 86 or 90 or 80%.
Percentages,
Plus
yeah.
doing the HRA,
Yeah.
and you're not going to get apples to apples with what you have today.
That's right, no matter what.
Yeah, no matter how hard we look, it isn't going to be as good as what we had.
okay.
Margie, does the Vermont League of Cities and Towns have anything for plans like this you could buy through them or no?
No, you can't buy through them
No, you can't.
anymore. The only place to buy health insurance is now the Vermont Health Exchange,
Okay.
or Medicare, or
Okay.
Medicaid.
Okay, can we move on?
Yes,
Mitch, do you think we can do this appointment policy in 10 minutes?
I can do it in less than 10.
All right. Everyone received from Mitch the revised appointment policy?
Yes.
Did you get, I had a couple of edits
just
that I
couple-
sent
Yeah,
along.
you took off the quotes on meeting day and
Couple of
Okay.
other things that, the committee business, because we're not talking other committees. Okay. All right, so go, Mitch.
Basically, this policy documents what's been pretty much been practiced, except for a couple occasions, probably in the last, since I can remember. But I'll start it off. The purpose of this document is to standardize procedures for selection, appointment, reappointment, and dismissal processes for the Planning Commission and the Development Review Board. Planning Commission, PC, and Development Review Board, DRB. Applicants to the PC and DRB must be a resident of Shaftsbury. Appointments. All interested applicants to the PC and DRB must be interviewed by the Select Board. This is for prospective new candidates as well as incumbents. The term of each PC and DRB member expires as follows unless the member is appointed to fill a vacancy for an unexpired term. All PC and DRB terms expire on town meeting day of the scheduled expiration year of term at appointment. A person appointed to fill a vacancy on the PC or DRB that occurs prior to the scheduled expiration of the incumbent member's term shall serve for the remainder of the incumbent member's term. Okay, vacancies, application, and interview process. Vacancy notices. The town administrator will inform the select board of all expiring positions at the second regularly scheduled select board meeting in December as an agenda item, and the select board will publicly announce these expiring positions. Notice of expiring positions will be posted to news media, social media, and the town website by January 1st. Persons seeking appointment or reappointment will submit a signed letter of interest, herein interested person, to the town administrator no later than January 15th. Late submissions may be accepted by approval of the select board. At the second regularly scheduled select board meeting in January, the board will publicly announce all interested persons. Residents may submit letters in support of or in opposition to an individual incumbent or prospective candidate by February 1st. For interviews, the town administrator shall contact each interested person to schedule a time for a personal interview before the select board. Interviews may only occur during a regularly scheduled select board meeting unless otherwise approved by the select board. Interviews with all prospective candidates will occur during the February select board meetings. Reappointments must be completed by town meeting day each year. Vacancies should be filled as soon as possible. Select board will announce PC and DRB board members by the second regularly scheduled meeting in March. Resignations. The appointment procedures for any out-of-cycle resignation shall follow the same vacancy, interview, and selection process as set forth above, with the exception of the calendar notices. In such cases, the select board shall act with due diligence to swiftly implement these procedures to fill the vacant position. Members' conduct and removal. PC and DRB members are expected to conduct themselves at their respective meetings in a fair, courteous, and understanding manner. All PC and DRB members serve at the pleasure of the select board and are subject to removal by majority vote and at the discretion of the select board. PC and DRB members must disclose any potential conflict of interest immediately and shall notify the select board if they move out of town at any time during their tenure on the PC or DRB. Reasons for removal may include, but are not limited to, excessive absence from their respective meetings. It is expected that PC and DRB members do not incur absences of more than 20% of regular scheduled meetings in a 12-month period without a valid excuse. Excessive recusals from PC or DRB meetings and hearings. It is expected that PC or DRB members do not incur recusals more than 35% of the time. Non-performance or other misconduct. Planning Commission, as a note, planning commissioners require a unanimous vote by the select board to be removed prior to the expiration of their term, per statute, state statute Title 24, Chapter 117, Section 4323A. The town administrator and the PC or DRB chairpersons will review approved minutes of the past 12 months if a PC or DRB member's attendance or recusals becomes an issue and report to the select board. Operations of PC and DRB. Each PC and DRB chair or designate shall meet with the select board annually for the purpose of reviewing the stated mission statement of the PC and DRB and to grant a general overview of the work being done by each board. Each PC and DRB chair shall provide their annual report to the town report to the town administrator no later than December 31st. And that's it in a nutshell. And as I stated, this is, except for the hard dates that we put in this document, most of this stuff has been followed since we've been around.
Except that we've had, that the terms didn't expire till April 1st.
Okay.
Right. It's always been April 1st.
Well, do you
And I'm trying to think of why. And in prior positions, we've always, when positions did expire on town meeting day, we were always left without a DRB or a planning commission for a week or so until the select board could meet. And so that would delay the hearing processes, and I remember just, it's just one of those timing issues.
So,
But I don't see why.
Right, I mean, you could say the first select board meeting following town meeting, because the select board does have to meet and reorganize.
how about all PAC and DRB terms expire on the day of or day of appointments following town meeting?
No, I think
That gives us some.
Well, I think
It's
that's
either-
probably why they always said by April 1st, because then the select board had that period of time during the month of March to reorganize and, set their agenda.
So, I don't have a problem with putting April 1st. All PC and DRB terms expired on April 1st.
I think it just might give certainly some continuity in terms of how it's always been, and it gives the select board, again, a little bit of breathing room to get themselves together before they're then making appointments.
Okay.
I would certainly support changing it to that.
So, on section B, sub B, procedures B, I guess,
Expire on,
expire on April 1st.
okay.
Is there any other considerations?
Okay.
So then sub C of 2, under interviews, would be you'd replace town meeting day each year. At the top of page 3, Mitch, that would also
Yes,
become April
okay.
1.
So the interviews must be completed by April 1st each year. Interviews C?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, then a D.
Well, then you'd have to change D.
Well, we could appoint effective April 1st.
Oh, I see.
It will announce these board members by the regularly scheduled meeting in March to be effective April 1st.
Yeah, that's good, yeah.
I'm not sure I have a,
I think that covers that.
so C, 2? Sub
C,
C now reads reappointments must be completed by town,
No, by April 1st.
you're going to say by April 1st each year.
Yes,
Okay.
for all expiring terms. And then the select board will announce PC and DRB board members by the second regularly scheduled meeting in March to be effective on April 1st.
yeah. All right, now, okay, yep. Okay, so this is our third reading.
Actually, it was.
Second.
Isn't this-
Second, because I pulled it last week, because I.
Oh, we didn't consider the 10th, the second reading?
Correct.
Okay, so
Because
this is
we
our
all had the
second
wrong,
reading.
the wrong
Got it on
thing.
the agenda for the next
Okay.
meeting as the third reading.
Okay, all right. Okay. Thank you, Mitch. We're all set?
I'm all set.
All right, great. Next on the agenda is the Board of Listers Grand List Errors and Omissions. I was a little confused on this one because I don't have a current grand list number or a new grand list number to refer to on this.
Okay, we can't do that. We
No.
can't do it.
So I think
without
we need
those
to hold
figures.
that until the listers can fill that in for us.
Yep.
unless anyone has a problem with that.
Nope.
So let's move on to the cemetery mowing, the maintenance contract. We had an original contract we signed March 27th of 2013 for 1 year with an option to renew for 2, with a yearly fee of $14,000. So Margie is suggesting that we take a look at this now.
To exercise the option.
To exercise that option, yep. And as we go into budget season, that would be helpful. If we chose to go ahead with this, we would know what that budget figure would be. So I would entertain a motion to extend the contract with Sycamore Landscaping for the cemetery mowing for an additional 2 seasons.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries unanimously. Okay, great. Jay has done a terrific job, and I think that's well-deserving. All right, now we have the documents regarding the bond vote and our elections in December. We have a warning. We have a proposed ballot language and a resolution that we have to approve, certificate of posting, publication, and vote.
Oh, you
And
don't
do we
really approve
have
that.
to-
That is something that we have to do for bookkeeping purposes.
But we've got the warning, a special meeting and election warning, okay? But these are all the documents that were sent. Did everybody
I didn't get
have a
that.
chance to review this?
Actually, I didn't get
think I
those.
did.
Oh, I
Okay.
didn't send these until late this afternoon.
Okay, I didn't get it.
But you got a copy of the email sent to the attorney. I believe.
Okay, so I'm going to suggest, considering the evening and the fact that we're meeting next Monday at 4 o'clock, and we have until the 28th to do this, right, Margie?
Yes,
We have until October 28th.
yeah, because that's the last date to petition an article.
Right. So
Take it up then.
I would suggest that
Well,
when you all
next
have a
Monday-
chance, I had some corrections on some of this, I'll just give it to Margie, but that you all
Monday is
review
the
this, and we'll take it up on the agenda for Monday. Does that,
Mitch, what were you
does
gonna
that
say?
work for everyone?
Monday is the 28th.
Right,
That's the
exactly,
absolute last day.
exactly. Yep, so we'll have to do it.
Take it up first.
We'll take it up first, that's right.
Karen, what was your,
I had, you can go through that, I had some changes, some corrections on a couple of those sheets. The next item on the agenda is the liaison duties. Because we have a new member and a new chair, we need to just shift some things around. I'm suggesting, and I spoke with both Kenny and Tim, who this would impact. I would propose to take on the traditional liaison duties of the chair, with one exception, unless Tim has a real hankering for animal control, because I've been involved in that, working with the animal control officer on some policies and some changes there. I would hold on to that. And I would also ask Ken to take on the water department.
Sorry.
I think it's certainly it's a real expertise area for you, and you're also the only board member on the board who is a water user, so I think it would be really helpful to have you in that position. So,
Karen,
yes,
so you're going to
Take
keep
everything.
animal control?
I would keep animal control, and I would
garage
just,
committee or not?
well, I will be a member of the garage committee. We've got three
there's
board
you now.
members on the
Yeah,
garage
yeah.
committee now, so I will certainly stay on that committee.
think
But
We get
Tim
into
is already on there
Problems
too.
with 3 board members being on that committee?
No.
Making a quorum?
Well, we have to
We have to
warn each
warn
meeting.
it. The meetings have to be warned.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, just,
Yeah.
that's what they
Yeah.
said up there at school.
Right, exactly. When 3 are together. That's exactly right, Ken. Margie, Ken will take on water. So
Ken-
he and I can sort of transition there.
Taking on water.
I think Carl also has had water
I have
on there. We had it as transitioning, so unless you just want to transition with Ken.
And so Carl, we're giving up water department for Carl?
You want to give up water department or come along with us?
All I deal with the budget, which I.
Just move down the hill, you'll get all the water you want over there.
Right, that's
I
right.
got plenty more up the hill, too.
So does that work for everybody?
Yes.
So,
Okay.
so Ken has got the water department from Carl
From,
and Karen?
yes.
Okay.
Well, and I'll transition with
Okay.
Ken on
Okay.
that.
We'll get new copies of them anyway, right?
Yes, Margie will put this together. Okay, all right, thanks on that one. Now we've got town administrators report.
Oh, well, the deadline for zoning administrators is Wednesday. We are getting resumes. I have a proposed budget schedule for
Good.
you. And that's the main part of my report. And I want you to take a look at this. This was not circulated in advance. I talked with the treasurer today, and next meeting, we would like to have Bill present financials for, this is November 4th. Present financials for, we will have 4 months year-to-date figures. And then, but also to take a look at the budget, what we carried forward from fiscal year 13, and to try to, for some people that are new on the board, to explain a little bit about a fund balance carry forward from a prior year, or that's the term that we use instead of surplus. And how that impacts budgeting for fiscal year 15, relative to the fact that you have to either recover additional revenue, or if you're trying to keep your percentage the same, or a flat budget, let's just say, you would have to somehow accommodate on your revenues or expenses, that fund balance, that was brought forward to subsidize this year's property tax assessment. So, anyway, to make Bill available and to talk about the macro, the big issues for the budget, a bigger picture, maybe even, I don't know, if you want to, sometimes I know colleagues of mine have boards that they will determine that, look, take a run with it, don't bring me back a budget unless it's 1% or less increase. And so then the department heads and I can, we have to pick and choose. We know the parameters within which we are working. Or the other approach is that you take all the input from the department heads, and we build a budget, and then as we move along in time, you end up taking a look at your priorities and deciding, look, this really is not going to fly this year. So, it's just different ways about going about a process. And I think, well, actually, the timing of the bond vote relative to this particular budget approval process is helpful. Because if it fails, you know you are going to attempt it again, but you have to wait 12 months. And so it would be helpful information. You may want to continue again with another flat budget in light of another bond vote. I think that it's advisable that I'd like to see if we could get some of the bigger departments in here in November on the earlier side. Want to really work with it's mostly highways, and take a look at our equipment acquisition schedules and then let's see. It would be nice to see if we could adopt a budget by in early January, because It gets very, very
Oh, I.
exhausting to
really-
continue meeting at a weekly basis all the way through
Yes.
into mid-January and bucking up against the deadline to actually publish reports in the town report, so that you don't have to publish the entire warning in the paper.
No,
And,
I'd really, yeah, the earlier the better.
And so we will be meeting without Carl starting December what?
I think it's a 10th.
Okay,
So if we could meet early on the 9th, that would help because I've got to drive to New York that day.
okay. Oh, okay, so that's good to know.
You're driving on the
If
9th?
we meet, that would be a special
I'm pretty sure I
meeting.
leave on, my computer died, so I can't look up the date, but I'm pretty sure it's a 10th, so I have
Okay.
to drive down on the 9th.
Okay. Are you going to be
I'll
at
drive
all
down at 10
available by
o'clock at night.
email?
Say again?
At all available by email?
No.
Or not,
My-
okay.
My
Okay.
mother-in-law does not know about computers.
So maybe we could,
I get it.
Smart lady.
you can meet at any time that's available if we have to have a special meeting that day, and we will. You should count on weekly meetings in December and the latter part of November.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is 5 PM, or do you want to try for 4 o'clock that?
The earlier the better, yeah.
Right, unless, we've got a bond vote on the 3rd. Perhaps we could meet the week, on that Thursday prior to, so Carl can be there. I mean, I hesitate to try to do a
Sure.
meeting on the day that he's, anybody
So try
has
meeting.
got a big trip scheduled. I don't, so, unless anyone has an objection,
Say
I would
Thursday,
suggest we said
December 5th.
Thursday, the 5th. Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Margie, thank you for putting that together. Is there anything else you wanted to add on that?
No, just I feel I don't think I served the community very well by having a deadline for the zoning administrator on the 23rd, but and having our zoning administrator say he's unavailable on the 18th going forward, because we really have a vacuum. So I don't know if it's worth an acting, there's really nobody, though, that can act as an interim or an acting zoning administrator.
Is Ken not willing to do it? Have we thought about asking any of our previous?
I think he's just really busy. I have not asked him.
Yep.
But we do need somebody that would be able to jump in and.
Right,
The only reason you would have an acting is if somebody's versatile enough and is experienced enough so that they could actually do some work.
Of course. Yeah, that's why I was
Immediately.
thinking of the two previous
Otherwise,
ones
there'd
we've
be more
had as
problems than
acting.
benefits.
Jake, I'm not
ZAs.
sure.
No?
I'm not sure. I haven't.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I've had some thoughts about the interview process, and I think it would be nice to have a small committee that actually interviews this time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking for a volunteer. And I thought about I'd like Chris.
Is that
Williams.
I'm the liaison.
Right.
But
No,
Mitch, you're also sitting on the DRB. Is that a good
Right.
idea?
Right, I think Chris
I was
would be,
thinking-
I think Chris would be good if he would be willing
Well, as
to.
chair of the
Yes.
planning commission,
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
Well,
And Carl,
doesn't the ZA, doesn't the planning commission do the first interview and make
Right.
recommendations to
Right,
us?
they actually report to the ZA, reports to the zoning
but they
administrator.
don't do interviews of all the candidates. They don't screen.
Planning commission.
They interview all the candidates?
No,
The planning commission doesn't?
no, we haven't.
I thought they did. I thought they,
Maybe not. Okay, you have anything else? You have hazardous
That's it.
waste? Do you want to
Hazardous
talk?
Waste Day, we know is coming up, and
Hazardous waste this Saturday, 9 to 12. 4 free tires, no rims. Do we have board members that are going to be, we have garage committee people that will be hopefully handing out little flyers that day, but Margie, you need some,
well, I have.
Personnel
Pat
from the
Percy
board?
is always there from Pownell, and I'm there, and
you need a board member?
it's nice to have one other person,
Uh-huh.
but it's not critical.
Okay, well, if anybody's got the time,
Help.
I'll be there, doing whatever, garage or hazardous waste or whatever. So, okay, have we let the state police know about the closing of Cleveland Avenue?
No, I'll have to finish that.
Okay, okay.
State police, I let the fire police know.
Well, I thought it was the state police that were upset at one year when we didn't let them know.
I don't remember
7A,
who
It was
was,
7A that was closed.
7A.
It wasn't, I believe Cleveland was our street.
I know, but they do the parade on 7A and...
Yeah, 7A is what they were
So,
concerned
yeah, right.
I don't know how, I don't have anything to do with the parade.
Do you,
So I-
who's the
that's why
liaison
I
to
asked.
Ken,
Ken.
Mitch,
To the what?
to the police, to the
Fires,
police?
Ken.
Well, I'm thinking the state police, we just ought to let them know that we've got, might have kids trooping up and...
Law
I think they-
enforcement will be
I
Ken.
don't know if
That's
the
me.
fire company does
And
the...
and the police,
Your law enforcement, fire
Fire
department, emergency management.
water department.
So, yeah. Maybe you should check with the fire company to see if they've gotten in touch with the state police,
Okay.
to be sure that everybody knows. We might have a parade, I don't know if they still do the parade or not. The fire company usually did, so, anyway. Does anybody else have anything? Tim?
No.
Mitch? Ken?
On that gravel, they bought quite a lot of gravel off of Barney.
Mhm.
At $8 a yard, I did a little figure in here, and if they'd have bought the same amount of gravel, or the same gravel, that Econo gravel off of Daly's, it's $6 and a half a yard, it's only $5 a ton, but you convert it over. And as far as I'm concerned, that Econo gravel's worth 10 of what that Barney gravel is.
Is that right?
And they ought to be using it, as far as I'm concerned.
oh yeah, you see the big difference.
I took Margie up on
Blueberry Hill.
Blueberry Hill.
I know, I saw it too. It's like
and
sludge.
That Econo gravel is worth 10,
Yeah.
because it's made from concrete, some of it.
Mm-hmm.
And when they grind that up, you can smell the concrete in it.
Mm-hmm.
And that stuff will pack down under that table.
Yeah, but we've had people terribly dissatisfied with that very same gravel.
I don't know how they ever could be. I've used it for base and top gravel. Not even put any top
I
gravel
think it
on
depends on the
Was that the
specs.
stuff, yeah, was that the
Because we've
stuff that
had
washed
people
down
on
like
Horton
sludge
Hill
or
that was-
something?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
We've
got
been
very
using
sludgy.
Econo gravel
They
everywhere.
did have some, Margie, they brought up out of Hoosick, and it had a lot of dirt in it. They're making it down here now. They make it right down here to Daly's.
And everything turned us, there was a slurry.
That's what it
Yeah, no,
was.
that was, because
It
I got
rained.
some of that myself. You couldn't get it out of the truck. One big
Yeah.
lump. But
All right.
I haven't bought any of that in 2-3 years.
Okay, thanks, Ken.
Yeah.
I think, maybe it needs a little conversation with Terry just to be sure that we're getting the best stuff that we can. All right, if no one else has anything, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, thanks, guys and gal.